good afternoon, good evening to everybody out there in what is going to be a mental week in the stock market and pretty much every other market that you can trade around the world. That's right, we are in US election week, a 1 in 4 year event. First time I'm ever streaming this event, also for the publics, which is going to be very, very exciting. We'll be doing that, doing a mega stream, of course, for the US election, talking about all things finance to do with that day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on another one of our regular Monday morning live bell streams. There is so much to unpack this week, so we're doing a little bit of an extra early one. I've got to go all the way to 1:30 in the morning as well just to get to the open now. So these daylight savings do not make it easy. Quick shout out to some of the people in the community joining us here. We've got Siddharth, hello, good to see you. Buzz, good to see you as well. Spot, Yan Liang, OM, good to have you in here for the first time ever. Mark, good to see you. Stuart, Kim, so many others joining us. Blue Jeans as well. So look, it's an early start. And I think it's good because there's so much to cover. We've got US futures up here into the session, and we kind of suspected that would probably happen. And we may also suspect that there's going to be a little bit of buying and positioning. We've got the final polls out for the US election. Depending on how you feel that's going to go, of course, you can position a little bit around those kind of ideas. We'll be talking about which sectors potentially perform well under possibly a Biden administration. It's worthwhile considering both options, having a plan for both options, and no matter how you feel about all those types of things, I know politics is the worst ever, but really it's about investment at the end of the day. There are going to be certain policies that come in that are going to change the landscape of what's good to invest in and what isn't good to invest in. We will be talking about that. People from all over the world here. We've got London, we've got Asia, we've got Brisbane. Good to see you there. Of course, America, other places, and I'm sure it looks like the demographics are from everywhere right now. So Dow Jones up 1.69%, probably the strongest of the day here. S&P up 1.44%. Nasdaq up 1.18. It's really been the weaker lagger. We've talked about that a little bit in terms of our figures as well. And Russell up 1.51. Standouts for movements at the moment, crude, oil, and Brent going down pretty hard over last week into this week. We saw a break of a key channel. Let's have a quick look at that key channel right now before we get into anything else. I'll bring that up right now for you. I think it's worthwhile talking about oil because oil is going to be one of those ones that's going to move quite a lot around the election. There is a little bit of at stake here for oil. So let's just have a quick look at this weekly, and actually we'll break it down to the daily over here. So you'll notice that over here there's a bit of market structure, and US oil probably has even better structure. There's what we drew up on the live charts, and we've been drawing for a while here. The structure between this 36.81 and of course 41.25 level. Now what's going to happen? Well, it hasn't quite completed the full distance of the structure. We talk about this technical analysis all the time and how this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I wouldn't be surprised at all for us to get a bit of a bull movement here in energy, come back, test this green line, which is the 200 simple moving average, double support acting as resistance like the standard role reversal, and then a further movement down, possibly even before the election. Now, if we do have a Biden win, oil could also plummet from that. We could see further selling pressure across oil. Just a reminder as well, just to help out the stream, if you do enjoy our stuff, make sure to, of course, hit that like button. It does help us a lot in momentum this week, and I'm hoping to create an even bigger community really off that massive stream we're doing into the US election. Some questions coming in here, and remember, do ask questions all the way through this stream. It's you guys that make this stream interesting. If it was just me rabbiting on all the time without your questions, it's going to make it much harder for me to make sure that I'm understanding what everyone wants to see. Antonio here says, hi Tom, if you go back to the 80s, the influence of Reagan and his tax plan is undeniable for the stock market. Wouldn't you think that a Biden administration is simply negative? So I think it's negative towards certain sectors and then positive towards others. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on renewables. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on those types of things. You see really what happened here. Here's a great example, and I'll probably show this a few times tonight. Here's all of the growth of dollars invested in S&P 500 over time. So you're talking about over here and what happened. Then you're talking about, of course, the Clinton era, the Bush era, bit of a up and down over there, Obama era, and then, of course, the Trump era. So really, over time, things like Nix and Zera, it hasn't necessarily been that great. Now, if you really see the trend though, the trend has always been up. We know this. The trend's always been up with the slight hiccups in between. Right now, what will happen? Well, there'll be, you see these types of articles, and I tend to agree with them. These are some top areas that people believe if Biden wins, that these are going to be good. Renewables, lots and lots of renewables, lots and lots of solar, lots and lots of those kind of things have already started moving. Supposedly canopy growth as well. Tesla, offsets, those kind of things. So I think ethical investments, for me, ethical investments is one of the things that you would want to be looking at. Remember, we're here to make money. We're here to invest the right way. So I think ethical investments could be a very good pick moving forward as well. Some other questions coming in here as well. Will we look at NEO? Yes, we will look at NEO. I know they've got a report and we'll definitely check them out. Hello, Pavel. Good to have you here as well. I'm loading up on puts once the stream ends, says Matthew. Yes, that has become a thing. For anyone watching, if you're new, pretty much we end the stream on a Monday morning. About half an hour later, it sells off. Remember, the first hour of trade is a lie. That is when most retail traders, people that use usually the Weebles, the Robinhoods, doesn't matter if you do, but generally the retail herd and community gets in the morning, and then by the end of the day, things become very, very different. So on Monday mornings, we've seen a very strong kind of movement in the morning and then a weakness after the first hour. Will it happen again? Certainly could be. So we've got a couple of questions here. Look at the VIX. It's turning the corner right now and ready to potentially go up. So VIX, this is the CBOE VIX here, I believe. And this particular one is sitting in between the zone. So we talked about this a little bit. Now, when you're looking at the VIX, one thing about volatility index is if it forms a nice resistance peak or an area that it's clearly struggling to get through, when it goes above that zone, it's explosive, yeah? It moves fast and it moves quick. And the VIX or volatility will always come in line with usually a key level on the US 100, as in the Nasdaq, or the S&P 500. There'll always be that key level that it will intersect with. It'll either precursor it, or you'll be seeing support being hit. And when it bounces through here, if it does that this week, expect fireworks on the S&P. We'll talk about both the bull and the bear case into the S&P as well. We've got a couple of requests for that. Why is the market going up with so much uncertainty? People are just rebalancing. There is a discount here. I mean, I personally have the position sizing of put in a position before the election with, but a portion of it. You're basically saying, okay, I believe this is going to happen. When I believe something's going to happen, what do? You position a portion in, and then it's like dollar cost averaging. If you get it wrong, oh well, I've got more left over. But if I get it right, I've done a good thing. That's how I think a lot of fund managers look at it as well. So there will be some positioning today. Anybody that's done it for a long time that has a lot of money to move, they will purchase in. But remember, the first hour is the trap hour. Hi, are you out of lockdowns, or is Australia going into some kind of thing after it? No, we're okay. We're out of lockdowns now. Only really Melbourne was in lockdowns. Siddharth says, status quo, Joe, nothing changes. Yeah, so no, we're definitely out of lockdowns to a degree now. We're still stuck a little bit. Shane says, Australia has dominated the thing I can't say because it'll completely ruin the stream. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've done okay, but, Melbourne definitely suffered the brunt of all this crap. I feel bad for some people overseas, though. It's not looking so good. Mark says, Tom, will the S&P be up by the close of SPX in your opinion? I think that, we're going to open up. Let's have a quick look here at this US 100. This will probably answer the question a little bit, Mark. So what have we been seeing happening here on the futures market? This is the 4-hour market, the 20 exponential moving average. Look at this, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at the level that we expected to be pre-market. We hit the 11.2, and you can already see some selling pressure coming in here. Let's just zoom this out a little bit. Let's get rid of those lines. Look at this. Support, 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 support. Is it going to at least have some selling there? Yeah, you would think so. The 200s on the Nasdaq, it's been the only really easy thing to do for for the last 2 weeks. Let's just line all these 200s up and just talk about it. It's been one of the best, I think, best levels. And I just think it's been really, really easy. It's been easy because every single 200 points, you've basically got a nice role reversal move. Starts up here, the 12.2. These aren't exact as well, I know, but they're close enough. Then it comes down, retests it. That's the 12,000 level. And then we've got the 11,800. You get tests again of the high. Then it comes down, tests the 11.6 here, comes down, tests the 11.4, comes up, tests the 11.2. I mean, eventually it's not going to work, but I tell you what, we've been talking about this one on the channel for quite some time, haven't we? And these 200 points, it's just been beautiful. Now, I think the 200 points stops though if we see a market that gets underneath this point here, this 10.8. So if we actually go to a daily and we leave all these lines on there, you'll see why. Basically, after the 10.8, we don't really have a 10.6 buy here. It bounced previously before that. So it bounced at 10.672. Now the 200 points might be in play, but I think it'll be quite a dramatic drop. If we see the market come down, bounce off, come back down, retest potentially the 10.8 from the bottom up, then the next fall is going to be logically into the body close over here and that little wick rejections over here, the 10.5. And we go back to being 500 point increments. And I would love it. I mean, how much would we love seeing 10,000 this week, guys? All of us would love 10,000 this week. Yes. Unless you're long and you don't have any money left. But other than that, yeah, 10,000 would be pretty sweet. I could see 10,000 happening if you had a Democratic win and people started to shake it up and be scared and all these types of things, and would just randomly we see like selling into it. But that would be that kind of opportunity that traditionally we should take advantage of. We know that statistically after US election, there's usually been a decent amount of weakness in that next month. There's been a weakness there, maybe 1 to 2% weakness. When Trump got elected, in the futures market, it was crazy. It was down like 400 points in terms of our market was. The US market was down maybe 5-6%. And then it swung, got it all up again by the open. And then by the close, it was up about 4%. So that was a very wild day in futures trading. Will it be like that this time? I don't think so. Not as heavy. But there definitely could be some big movements here in terms of fear, because there's this perception that if the Democrats get in, everything's terrible. And look, certain sectors won't perform well, but it may not be long-term as terrible as you think. There's a few different scenarios we'll be talking about tonight. We'll go back to the room here. Some questions coming through. We'll look at the SPY very, very soon. EZ said, told you Friday, load up all. Look, yeah, it's certainly hit the zone. We talked about the 3230 on the S&P 500 and how that was most likely going to be a buy zone. But again, is it already over? Well, not really. This is just that first hour of trade. I don't think it's over yet from coming back down into uncertainty. There's still uncertainty in this market. It could go from here. It hit that 3230 zone. Look at that, 3233, almost perfect. And then it did bounce off. It does make sense to bounce that level, but I don't think it's over yet. We'll talk about why. Keep those questions coming in as well, everybody. We'll certainly be answering as many as we can. Sam Corona says, Tom, are we still in correction phase? At this point, we don't have a technical new break high. So yes, we would be in correction phase. But don't be super bearish on the market to the point where you think the market's going to go, down to March lows. I do not think so. It's going to be volatile depending on, of course, all these scenarios, so many scenarios coming out. There will be different cases, but as I said, there will be fund managers who are putting in a portion of their, let's say, positioning, betting effectively on the outcomes and just general bullishness in the market. James says here, and it's a good point, stores are already doing Black Friday sales because people will be out of money sooner rather than later. Won't this cause horrible fourth quarter results resulting in more market downs? Yes, if we see a very, very late stimulus here, especially consumer discretionary, we'll suffer from that. Jamie? Yep. Sorry, Jamie, not James. Absolutely. Hey, SC, it's up to you, bro. Christina, yeah, a lot of people are sick of it. Of course, we're all sick of it. It's just the unfortunate reality. Shane says, what's your tip? Most important question, what's the tip for the cup? So basically the cup is it's a horse gambling race. Can you believe in Australia we get a day off, a public holiday to celebrate gambling on horses? It's pretty good, isn't it? Not too bad. Okay, so let's have a look around these markets. So again, massive greens coming into the market open. Let's take a look at this Webull pre-market screener here. We're screening 20 billion and above today. So we're screening pretty large. What have we got that's moving generally with the market? Well, we have here a whole bunch of things that we don't usually trade. We've got a bit of PayPal. So PayPal looking strong into the earnings. Now we do have earnings of PayPal later on today. Square also doing well, another one that's releasing this week, I believe. And we go down through any of the big companies here. Nothing super strong coming through. I mean, there's Coke over there, trading at $48. Mostly up across the board. Let's go into the super caps quickly and just get rid of all these other ones. Go maybe really big, go 100 billion plus. So in the super cap kind of world, what have we got generally overall? PayPal, Apple, not up as much. This was up about 1% only a little while ago. That was up 1% coming into the pre-market. Now it is not. So we'll definitely be having a look here at the first hour. We're talking about a few other things that you can be doing. Now, if you're trading this week, let's say you're trading. I'm a day trader, okay? Or I'm a scalper. Let's say I'm doing that. Are you going to want to be taking swing-based trades? I don't think so. I think swing trading this week is a really bad idea. The information can be so fast. And what I mean by swing trading is something you want to hold for a couple of days. That can be dangerous during these times. Things will be changing way too quickly and algorithms will be getting involved. So it's more of a day trading market or scalping market. Investing is totally different. It's always different. You've got to segregate your accounts. Sometimes I recommend to people that they have lots of different accounts and they segregate it to the trading style they want to do, because we've all been there where we have maybe some profit open, maybe from our investments. That's profit. We've taken a loss maybe in a day trade or a scalp, and then we just press close all. How many of you in the room have done that? Have you pressed the close all? I'll put my hand up. I've done that. Wasn't so good. You don't want to be pressing the close all. Let's take a quick look at beats as well. Please do remember, beat data here is pretty good. So earnings season beat rate, 87% so far. That means that there are a huge amount of beats the misses to new updated during the crisis kind of results. So this isn't like Q2 where everything was going to beat. We are seeing relative strength in the market. Please do remember that. This should not be considered a crash. Look, of course, on YouTube, it's really easy to say crash, because you get more views. Yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie, that's what you get. But at the same time, you have to do it because everyone else does it. I've always maintained, be a general optimistic bull and be pretty smart about the kind of levels that you get, because usually you get like 38.2 to 50 fib pullback. So if we're looking at something like, let's say this US 500, there are some very big bear case scenarios that could happen. If we go through like a fib of the whole move, let's take a fib of bottom to top. Consider that we haven't even pulled back under a 23.6 of the whole move. Why did it stop here? Well, it stopped here because there was previous resistances, but also because it was a 23.6 of the whole move. Now, if we consider a new low, look how significant that's going to be. We're going to have a peak over here. We're going to kind of have like a actually lower peak over here. On the Dow, this looks like a double top. We actually almost hit equal highs. And then if we break through this low, just consider how strong that's going to be. We're going to have a daily 2050 cross here. We're going to have a very big pattern saying that we should be going back to the promised land, which is a perfect corrective pullback phase between a 38.2 and a 50 fib. Don't get too caught up in any particular fib. The 61.8, I believe, is for suckers. And the main reason is because if a market comes down that much, that's not healthy. Why did it get down there? That's not corrective. That's crash. So we want to see a market between a 38.2 and a 50 in healthy. And then we want to see the price action. Then we want to see a market do this. Comes down, hits between the zone, makes a top, makes a higher trough or a higher low over here, and then it makes the new higher peak, so the new high over here. Once it does that, that's what we call the lightning bolt, yeah? The lightning bolt on a significant time frame, especially a daily, is incredibly significant. And if you see one of those appearing between this zone and this zone here, theoretically, if it gets down there, or in any stock in the future, this is a very strong buy signal. It's the price action. It's the confirmation. The momentum is in your favor. We talk about it a lot, but that's the kind of thing we want to be looking for. Got a great turnout, by the way, here. So thank you very much for everyone. Keep hitting that like button if you do enjoy what we do, because it helps out to get the good name out there. Mark says, crash, 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 crash dollars. Look, Mark, it's not bad, especially if you're sitting on the sidelines a bit. Look, I don't want it to necessarily fully crash, but I wouldn't mind it coming down a little bit more. Where am I originally from? I actually was born in Australia. So I'm originally from here, but technically a little bit English and a little bit of Dutch. Do I roll options? Yes, I do. I specifically love covers and I really love selling puts, but I sell puts with the idea of buying the stock. I like selling puts with the idea of buying the stock. So I don't sell large positions. I sell positions for the size of the stock position I want. During this year, there was some crazy, I think I got like on 1 3-month put on the index, the ASX, I got, it was 11%, something like that. It was insane. Isn't the US market a little bit overbought anyway? Is it healthy to invest in it? I think we're at a point where you can invest in it, yeah. I think up here, when it was super optimistic and crazy, crazy moves, look at the weekly. The weekly usually tells you whether you can invest in it or not. Like, if you look at a month and you think, well, let's use the SPX for example, and you look at this and you think, this is insane, okay? But this is also the rise of tech. If we look at the percentage of tech in the market, it's a different world. The US is the leader. It's the game changer in terms of technology. It also had a tax cut throughout it. It doesn't have kind of capitalist, it's a capitalist society, so we do have the ability for these companies to grow very, very huge. Look at this monthly. This is what's going to be a big proponent as well. Get rid of that. This is what's going to be a big thing in the markets. Let's load up the pivots in just a minute as well and take a look at these monthly pivots. If we get underneath this zone, the 3200, not only are we making a new low, but we're also breaking against a monthly. And that historically has been a relative negative sign, like very negative, in fact. I wouldn't be surprised at all, as I've said before, for us to get back down to at least 3,000 at that point. We should drop about 200 points if that's going to happen. This is the time when the bulls and the bears really are truly fighting each other. 3230 and that 3200 zone is the fight. If the bulls lose here, the market will look like it's crashing. It will come down most likely, statistically even, to those levels. Sulong Fu says, yes, earnings are actually good and the estimates and guidance actually not bad, exactly opposite of the general consensus. Absolutely. And that's what happens. You get that the market is really, really good at making people think that things are going to go against them or going to go the other way. Like right now, we might have just seen a sell-off into the election, and we may even see bullish movement regardless of who wins in the election, just as a bit of a trick. A few people saying trend channel has been broken. I'm not sure on what. Are you talking about the US 500? We will be looking at all of the price action coming into the open as well. Quite a few people have been asking me about that. Yes, we will. I'm just talking about a little bit of generalization right now. Speaking of QE and the FOMC meetings, here's some read-ups just in terms of discussions here from Goldman Sachs, our most trusted advisors, yes. Well, without any further discussion of policy changes, the November meeting should be fairly quiet, they say. The economy has continued to recover at a healthy pace since the FOMC last met, but faces risks ahead from the withdrawal of its fiscal support and a second virus resurgence. Neither risk is entirely new at this point, and we expect a few changes from the FOMC statement. So, Goldman haven't had a good track record through this crisis. But overall, look, the FOMC statement, I'm not sure what they're going to do. And the reason why is because we haven't seen necessarily what we need, which is we need the stimulus. We know that the Fed want the stimulus. They need the stimulus right now for the markets. Depending on how the US market goes, they've already pushed back this meeting for this reason. But if the US election goes a certain way, maybe they even change it last minute. Overall, though, I think that it'll be relatively the same, and they'll have to play it out. They can't afford to throw every one of their bullets in the market right now. So a few other things. It's always Goldman that seems to be coming out in these top stories, but these are just free stories that are out there. Goldman slashes Europe's fourth quarter. I don't think that's a surprise. Look, Europe will have a bit of a problem with their, of course, lockdowns into the election. These are, of course, all of the main states. We all know it's going to be Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, etc. That's going to be looked at. But on mostly to the markets, is anyone trading Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin is completely flogging, and I'll use the word flogging, gold right now. It looks to be the hedge of choice coming into the election. If we look at cryptos just in general and we think about their movements recently, Bitcoin has been the standout move, and it has been very, very strong. So the question becomes, is this a trap for Bitcoin traders or another resurgence of Bitcoin coming into the election? And I think a lot of that comes down to what I'm thinking, which is that we will see a huge amount of introduction of other crypto style coins in real economies. So we're going to see them in potentially, other countries, but the US, Australia, Europe, everywhere around the world will start their own effectively cryptocurrency. Quite a few people are saying 2021 for stimulus. Yes, a lot of people are calling January stimulus, and it's going to take all that time. If that's true, consumer discretionary is going to suffer pretty hard. Let me just get a consumer discretionary chart up for everybody, and let's have a look at that sector in general over the last pretty much over the last month. Let me bring this in for you right now. I'll just take a photo of it. Let me get that consumer discretionary up. All right, almost got it ready. Okay. Okay, so this should be appearing on our screen momentarily, and we'll have a quick look at consumer discretionary. So here's a consumer discretionary chart basically for the last month. We can see that it had a really big move up until we hit that kind of problem with stimulus. And since then, it's been declining overall. So this is a 1 month chart of what's happened recently with XLY. Now, if we consider what might have happened over a 3 month period, let's see how it reacted to the stimulus overall and how that market moved. So we'll get a 1 year now. Actually, we'll bring that up on our own chart. We'll bring up XLY right now. Just quickly talk about this. So XLY, here's the chart, and really this is when we started getting that stimulus, of course, in play, and what ended up happening to it. Now look how extended this chart is. So it looks really, really good from a perspective of the bulls. But right now it started selling off pretty hard, and this is the anticipation. Notice how it makes a new high into the anticipation of the stimulus. We kind of called right around here that we were going to see further weakness on this. This was a really good put decision. And now we're coming back down to the 140 level, previous support level from September. If we are not going to see stimulus, where do we think this is going to go? This is going to be that weaker sector that's going to probably dive further without a stimulus. This is going to be one of the weakest sectors with no stimulus coming through on it. Quite a few people saying here that we won't get a second US lockdown, and then people believe there is or there isn't. Yeah, look, it is a bizarre thing. You will get probably state lockdowns in certain portions, and again, that depends a lot on the election as well. But yeah, XLY, look at your sectors coming in, look at the way they're moving. If you're ever unsure of what you're looking at or what you want to buy in the markets, sometimes just go around the different sectors, see how they've performed. Look at things like the FinViz heat map. If we're thinking about what we want to position into or what might be going well, you can select from the FinViz heat map, PE, forward PE, 1 month performance. We can have a look at how everything's been going for a month. Look at this. I mean, only Google has really been doing well out of the FANG stocks. We got Netflix really declining quite hard there. Intel obviously really in trouble in terms of its movement against overall AMD and others. But even AMD has done very, very poorly recently in the last month. And that's because it was extended. When you look at it on chart, you can see it straight away. So let's have a look now. We've been asked to look at NEO, so we will do that. Again, we'll look at even more stuff moving through the night, moving through the morning if you're in the US, and we'll be taking a look at everything to do with all the stocks. Now, NEO, good result here. Very vertical chart. We've spoken about the 20 exponential moving average several times over the last couple of months here, really being the dynamite kind of pick for buying. We didn't even get there last week. It was so bullish. This is really the bullish stock of choice. Now, I'm not going to go into the financials and the fundamentals behind it because I don't think we can just yet, in terms of I'm just not an expert on the fundamentals of this particular stock, but a lot of people are calling it the second kind of Tesla. Obviously, it would benefit, I would believe, under something like Biden. And in this case, we have seen a astronomical rise. We thought 30 would probably stop this thing. And then the pre-market over here, we've got a 33 now. So it's just gone ballistic. What I always look at with stocks is I always go to a weekly if I'm wondering whether it's too ballistic. And I always look at how far away it is from a 20. And I just consider if it's really, really, really far away from the 20, that even though we're seeing a very positive result over here, and it could continue to grow for a very, very long time, it will eventually touch this point. It will have to. And it will be when everything looks green and everything looks great as well, because that's the way Wall Street works. So I would be pretty careful of this. If you're following the trend and you're wondering, well, what am I going to do in terms of it moving backwards on me too fast? I'd just be looking at a 20 exponential moving average. It's the only easy way of kind of following price right now. I think a lot of people would agree with that. How do you follow this other than when it breaks out, it's explosive. Broke out here, explosive move, but was so explosive that you would have had to be on a smaller time frame than a daily. It trades very much like Tesla from that perspective. When the breakout happens, it's explosive and it doesn't come back. Traditionally, it hasn't been coming back for a little while. Like over here, it did come back. Over here, it kind of did a lot of coiling and then just went ballistic. Over here, time will tell. Will we now see a little bit more movement up to 33? And then it comes back, retests the previous resistance. Maybe the 20 will be there at the same time. If that all happens and it's all in unison, that would be your buy position for this type of stock. So I always think, what's happened in the past? What technical kind of perception do we have on this stock? It's the 20, and then I'd be trying to find a resistance test where it comes back down after the hype train of the earnings, and we see kind of a nice little zone in here. Mark coming in here with what seems to be a very nice comment. Australian $10, just bought you a schooner of Melbourne bitter. Enjoy. Thank you very much, Mark. I do enjoy a beer, so thank you very much. Melbourne bitter. A beer that was not around for a very, very long time. Maybe I'll go a VB, Mark, and become a bit of a bogan. Heaps of questions coming in here. A few people saying NEO is a beast, cannot be stopped. Yes, well, it certainly is very, very, very aggressive here in terms of the moves. We look at something like a Tesla as well. It's now declining, and a lot of the hype and movement is into NEO. I bet you if you actually looked at this and you look at the retail kind of community right now, people aren't interested as much in Tesla. Why is that? Because there's no explosive gains. Tesla was really ridden very, very hard up to this point on pure hype and anticipation of people trading it from the retail community like you and me. Now that it hasn't been performing as well, people are into NIO again. And that's the rotation. If you ever want to look at why that is, when we could use that Robinhood tracker, that was pretty good. And I think that's gone now. But you can also go to Google Trend Analysis and just put Tesla next to NIO, and you'll see very, very quickly that there's a huge amount of retail anticipation. If anyone in the community actually has a good way of tracking retail traders in these stocks, certainly do share it with us. Pavel says, so many gaps on NIO. Yeah, it gaps up hard. It gaps up really hard. Here's a thing that's happened on Tesla recently. We had that break of the 50. This is the first break we've had in a while. Support, came down to it, almost tapped, and then kind of moved up. We thought this 400 was going to hold a little bit better. Had some buying pressure there, but now it's just gone straight through it. Straight through down. Possibly next stop, 350. Previous resistances, previous support. So we might even see a 350. This should be positively impacted by a Biden win, you would think, Tesla. So this will be one of those gambly stocks this week that, depending on the outcome of the US election, could go quite wild. Put call ratios, of course, on the rise. We've spoken about that a little bit. Let's have a look at the broader market right now and back to what we've been checking. We'll just have a quick look at the pre-market, see what's moving on the pre-market here. Looks like we've got big moves and a whole bunch of stocks is still that we're not really trading. We'll go over to 50 billion plus. I think there's going to be no problem either way on still betting on big cap companies, especially ones in manufacturing moving forward. We are going to see a decoupling of globalization regardless of who wins overall over the next couple of decades. US manufacturing hopefully coming back. More automation means more profit as well, potentially coming in there. Anything of interest here? Zoom, the unstoppable machine, continues up 460. If you have a look on a chart here, this is a good example of something that went super vertical and then really started falling off hard. So remember, NIO traders out there, that's the type of thing that can happen. Get rid of some of these articles now as well. We don't need those anymore. So earnings week this week, what have we got going in? So these ones, not super interested in those. I am interested to see how PayPal reacts. I think a lot of us will be interested in PayPal, and just to see what ends up happening there. Another favorite of the community here has been Square. So Square will be an interesting one. Alibaba as well, another one that's worthwhile probably charting up a little while later. Netflix, another stock that is worthwhile looking at charts right now. I don't know if anyone's been looking at Netflix. It's been one that I have been very, very interested in from the support line down here. Notice that Netflix has really been breaking down and coming back to test this 469 area. This support here should be another hold, hopefully, on the shorter time frames. Look at this. Support, resistance. We're in effectively a giant range-bound channel. Now, if Netflix gets through the support here and breaks below, it's going to be some mega selling down to 400. Mega selling. But at this stage, this is still going to hold most likely some buyers. SC say Main Street is different from Wall Street. US Main Street is failing. Yes, it's not doing so well. SPX and SPXW put call ratio was 1.19 on Friday. So let's just bring that up quickly. So we'll use the CBOE daily market statistics there for this one. If you want to know what it is, we'll use that. So here we've got a put call ratio 1.19. So quite a lot of calls being opened. We would have had expiry around this point though, but 1.19, that's a very low number. You would think that that means selling today after the initial open. Because usually, and there will be a huge amount of buy calls being opened, options have never traded bigger than they are trading right now in the market. This is the second coming of the tech boom. Do you swing trade, Tom, says Stuart. Yeah, swing trading is my preferred. If I'm going to trade, swing trading. I invest and swing trade. What about Baba? We'll talk about that soon. Zaki says if Biden wins, even bigger stimulus. Yeah, I think they'll definitely chuck a huge amount of money in the markets. I think there'll be a big one. Airlines and cruises are failing. Yes, failing and falling, SC. I've been one big proponent of staying the hell away from those stocks. I've told everyone in this community and on the stream, I hate airlines. There's nothing I dislike more than airline stocks, and I dislike them from their one key event risk. It's got nothing to do with this particular risk. I didn't really think about this one. It's always been a little bit of a rule of mine that I don't like the idea that an airplane can crash. One of them, let's say it's Qantas in Australia. This airplane company has never had a crash. You get one crash, you get 25% wiped off your stock in one day. Ryan Chenwealth says, Tom, we all know you would like some BRKB for about 200. What about some same amount of fractional shares of BRKA? Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter. You can get either. Absolutely. Yeah, fractional shares are cool. How cool is it where you get fractional shares now? I was doing some VWAP work before as well to just go through with the community. Just wanted to show some VWAP. We'll be doing that a little bit later as well. Just the precursor of some of the things we'll be talking about tonight. Let's have a quick look here actually at Berkshire. So this is a bit of a favorite of mine. I always crap on about it. The main reason I kind of talk about this, I think there is some good companies underneath it. And I think long term, it still will do quite well. I think these prices as well are starting to, well, they certainly made sense to me. 200 was a great level for this. There's already a 4% increase, it looks like, off that point now at 204 pre-market. But I do think there's some work here for it to be done. Let's say we get a bounce here on Berkshire like we're doing. What about this level? What about the fact that there's plenty of support that was found here before it came down? We do have a cross. We do have a cross that's confirmed, 2050 cross on the daily. But I'm still relatively bullish on it for this price. I hated it here. I did hate it here. It just wasn't worth it. But here it's becoming more of a value kind of proposition. I do think there's some good companies inside of this one. Jimmy says airlines will rocket when vaccine found. It's no brainer, Tom. You buy when it's blood on the street and you can't get overseas without them. I agree with you, Jimmy, but you have to buy ones with great cash flow and really, really strong businesses that will survive. And on top of that, you don't want to buy the small ones, Jimmy. You don't want to buy the small ones. But also, if we think about it from the perspective of the damage that's been done to them, and everything else, I don't think they're going to necessarily go crazy, and I don't know how long we're going to be trapped in. See, I like to wait till they accumulate. So if we grab like a position, let's just consider, I'll draw it up for everyone. It's always a cool thing. So if we see like a market falling down like this, let's say it's a stock, a key rule of what a retail trader will do. What will we all do? We'll go, yes, value. Yes, even better value. Buy, 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 buy. The problem with that is if we're buying that super value and we think it's there, how long until it comes back? Quick rule of thumb, if you see a stock drop 20% plus, it has a statistically likely chance it does not come back to the previous peak for a very, very long time. Statistically likely. In fact, most of them don't come back because they drop 20%. It's 20% plus. You need to see a big drop like that. But when they hit the bottom, often what will happen is they might have a spike up, but then they'll come back down and then they'll sit here for a while and they'll accumulate. Now, if you ever see an accumulation like channel like this and it breaks out of the accumulation, sure, you're not getting the bottom price. You're not getting the best price, but that breakout there is when I would snag these airlines. That's when I would be snagging them. You're not going to get the best price. I understand that, but you are not also going to have all of your money trapped for potentially 6 months. I hate that. I hate being trapped in. I've done it. I've been trapped. No one likes that one. Brian says Twitter 20%. Yeah, well, that's right. Twitter is one of those ones. The tech stocks, I guess, could be different. But even have a look at how long it's taken for Twitter to get back. So here we had the 19 kind of result fail. It filled the gap, failed again, obviously due to the the crisis. But with Twitter, this particular stock can take some time to get back. This one has a history of getting back, but predominantly most industries can't get back. Only tech can, because tech can turn it around a lot faster. It's also based on a crazy growth multiple. Thoughts on Twitter? I think the Twitter's coming down to the level, which would be this 40. But, you know, I mean, imagine if Trump lost. I mean, the thing is that he kind of brings a lot of people's eyes to Twitter. I would have thought that the next quarter of results for Twitter should be relatively strong. I know I've been on Twitter more than I've been on Twitter ever in the last month. The last 3 weeks, I've been on that damn platform more than ever before, and I don't even like that platform. That's just me, though. Do I ever view ads on it? Probably not. But the point is, I am on there. What would be a good play for Friday if the election is still undecided? We'll be actually streaming non-farm payrolls, Lonnie, so we'll be talking about that then. There's so many different scenarios to consider this week, and that's going to be our main kind of problem coming into the election. Which scenarios are we going to play with? I was talking before about how I like to put in a position ahead of the elections generally. I just put in like kind of a feeler position with a certain amount of money I've got set aside. Why do you do that? Because I'm hedging both ways. I'm just like, you know, I'm happy with these picks at these levels. We're getting a discount. I like a discount. So that's the way I think about it. Do we get a full blue wave? Full blue wave is a totally different scenario than a half kind of blue wave. Half blue wave is kind of like the nightmare scenario. What do I think about Square? We'll take a look at Square very, very soon. Adamar says, if Biden wins, oil drops further. I would tend to agree. There will be a knee-jerk, pretty good option as well on this one. I'm waiting for that. I think there might be an overreaction on oil, specifically on something like Exxon or something like that. If we get effectively a really, really large move on, let's say, oil, we get down to like under a 30 handle, something like that on the day of the election, I'll be pretty interested on it. Let's because the underperformance right now of everything going on in the oil stocks is just wild. Like, look at this hideous graph. Like, I feel so bad for these people that own this one. I mean, I don't mind having it down here, but this stock has just been really terrible for so long. It's kind of like the dying industry, but that doesn't mean it can't have a very nice pullback. Look how far extended away it is even from this monthly 20 to the downside. I think we're getting right into knee-jerk reaction territory. What do we see? What happens if this happens? Biden wins. We get it to dip even under this level. I mean, it's got to have some recovery on it. This company, any of the other oil companies, an index of the oil companies, they will have a resurgence. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see oil at 60 to 80 a barrel for the last time that it gets back up there. A lot of people didn't think it would ever get close to 100, and it almost did a few years ago after that 15-16 crash, which was pretty brutal. VA says today's open is 1 hour later. Yes, I'm aware, VA. I started earlier for the Australians out there. Speaking of Australians that have joined us, I know it's getting late. We are looking at 11:49 p.m. right now in Australia. Don't worry, I'll be here all the way to that 1:30 open. I'm very excited to see today. But yes, let's just have a quick look at the Australian market. Just quickly talk about this. It's always interesting to look. If you only look at the American market, do consider others. There are other opportunities. I've been mentioning that, you know, it was actually a lot easier to short and position in things like the FTSE and stuff like that in terms of puts than it was in any other market in the world in many ways. And the Australian market's now got the budget behind it. It's looking relatively bullish from that aspect. We've got lots of stimulus coming into it. Tomorrow, we've got the RBA rate cut decision. Looks like we could go to 0.1%. If they don't cut interest rates in Australia tomorrow, what's going to happen? Most likely we will not see a rate cut in December. We will not see a rate cut in January. It's not their style. Probably not till March, actually, will we see a rate cut if they don't cut it tomorrow. But we could be looking at a 0.1 rate cut. That's kind of got the market sitting around this level right now. The biggest bear case scenario for the ASX 200 at this stage still remains the 5600. The big bull case is kind of like maybe right here it moves up, could happen, or it might come back down to the 5800, find support, and then move up. Pretty bullish on the Australian market. I think that we've done a decent job with this crappy virus thing, and that we could certainly get through the 6200 with a nice big break. Nice big close break. This is going to be a beautiful level to have on your futures charts. Even if you're somewhere else in the world, imagine this. Imagine a market coming up, breaking, closing above, coming back down, retesting. This is what I call a 1, 2, 3, but a golden one. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, really 4 in here, 5, and then of course that resistance will act as support. Beautiful level on the 6200. It will happen. When it does and it pulls back, which it most likely will, pretty cool zone there. Shane says no need to cut Australian rates. I agree with you, Shane, but if we look at things like the Forex Factory, and this is actually a really good thing as well, if you've got new viewers out there, we probably do, 742 viewers right now. Let's see if we can get a record tonight. We need about 810 to get a record, I believe, for our live streams. It's very exciting to have you all out there, so thank you very much. But Forex Factory, great little economic calendar. Also Market Watch, another great economic calendar if you're not using those. Daylight saving time shifts here for CAD and US dollar. We must remember, well, USD, of course, America here. We must remember to have these on our charts. I want to go through as well. We've got bank holidays. If you're a currency trader, important to know when the bank holidays are for certain currencies, less liquidity those days. You can see here the forecast rate cut. Another cool little tool. We can click this little bar on the right over here. We look at all of the economic rate cuts over time. So you can see a bit of a history of when they choose to rate cut. So notice here they did a little bit of Feb rate cutting, but they usually do not do it. Don't prove me wrong here, chart, but they usually do not do it around the December and January period. It just doesn't have that kind of good effect for really what they're doing, which is losing gunpowder. So we've got that this week. It shows obviously the US election, whole bunch of monetary policy from Britain out there, FOMC states, basically federal funds rate, which a lot of people were talking about before. Let's have a quick look at that one. So you can see all the quick rate cut here, how fast it was. If we zoom out a little bit, check out this. Look at this GFC rate cutting. Bang, 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 bang. Look at how fail they made it. Look at this. They got up through 2004 up to 2008. They got those rates up. This time around, even with the best performing stock market, still couldn't even get this thing above. It looks like we're going to be in low rate for pretty much ever. Federal funds rate very, very low. And then, of course, non-farm payrolls later on in the week. Another look around the markets coming in. Remember, check these ones out. Check out your one-year performance as well. Always worthwhile seeing how things have performed over the last year. Again, all of the tech stocks really been the outperformers. Google was one of the weakest ones. It's now having its kind of time to shine with its recent report, so it's been doing quite well. And of course, banks have really been the ones to stay away from. I still think banks will have a short-term value proposition, but long-term, I would be hella scared of these banks. I just don't like them. They haven't performed well after these kind of crash periods, usually. Go to the futures over here. Still looking at a 33.08 for the S&P. Dow Jones 1.66, Nasdaq 0.92. A few people will ask. Finviz.com, this is free resource, great little screener to have on one of your monitors. A few people also ask me, how many monitors is a good amount? I'll answer that question right now. I think 3. 3 is a good amount. Why is that? And I actually like to have one maybe even vertical. So one vertical mounted and then a main screen and then a screen just with like kind of the things that you're looking at. You don't need any more than that in my professional opinion. I used to have 12 in front of me. It blinded me. It went kind of blind. And I'd also recommend things like Flux might be worthwhile considering if you get really dry eyes and stuff. When you're looking especially at charts, I would recommend you generally turn them to a black. It makes it a little bit easier. $77 coming in with $4 US. Thank you very much as always, Sandollar. Appreciate that. That's towards coffee. I might be making one a little bit later for sure. What's my outlook on Apple? I think Apple could come down to about $100 per val. And then at that point, we could see very, very strong buying. But I think it's at a fair price right now. Absolutely. Let's take a look now at gold, silver, some of the metals. So gold's starting to have a very, very nice move up. Kind of talking about this zone on the weekend video. Mentioned this 1885, how there was going to be a little bit of buying pressure coming through. And then we would probably see some form of roll reversal, at least some form of resistance selling around this 1896. Still probably maintain that. This is like, if we go to a 1 hour, let's have a look at a 1 hour here. So if we go and have a look at a 1 hour, we're basically trying to get through a new high. I think silver was the clearer trade. So silver had a really beautiful break. Now this is what you look for in TA. Again, it doesn't really matter what the instrument is, but if you get something like this, it's always worthwhile considering. Why is it? Multiple resistances. Remember, the more times something touches, when that breakout happens, I don't actually like taking the breakout necessarily, but what I like doing is I like trading the conservative entry, and I especially like trading the conservative entry off a moving average. So usually off the 20 moving average will be what happens on whatever time frame you're looking at. The 20 will usually intersect the conservative entry when the market comes back down. And then at that point, you can usually buy in. You've got a fib usually of the last run. So Fibonacci retracement. You've got a moving average and you've got multiple resistances becoming support coming into that event. We also know that if you lined up every 50 cents in silver, because there's so much of us, the retail community, in silver right now, we're trading it off psychological points. So never discount the 2350, the 24, the 2450, the 25. You'll notice a gravitation to those zones. Just chuck them up, put horizontal lines through all of them, and you'll generally see those levels acting as the key points of buying and selling pressure. Even if you're looking at putting stop losses behind things, put it behind by a percentage. Maybe go like 10 to 15 cents behind these zones, and you'll generally be relatively safe. There was an outlier event here, but in general, they've gravitated to these zones, found resistance. Look at this, 2450, support, 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 becomes resistance, sells off. Yeah, this is the same thing time and time again. This and the Nasdaq have got specifically great psychological zones on them. Kenny says, I'm all in on NEO for that long. NEO or Tesla? Well, at the stage, it looks like retail traders are in NEO, Kenny. If you're on a budget, Siddharth says, tile charts on a big screen. There's nothing wrong with having one screen, Siddharth, absolutely. So let's now have a look at our SPX analysis. So we'll bring in here some interesting things. We'll get rid of this stupid volume. I think I've got a whole bunch of them sitting on this chart for some reason. Get rid of this. Sorry, everybody. Almost gone. There we are. So this is TradingView, by the way. A few people have asked me what this one is. This is TradingView of the platform. So we're going to add in here some pivots. We'll just use the pivot here, the monthly, weekly, daily. Might as well show everyone what it is, the CPR here. When you add that, it'll come up and look like this. You can then right click on it, go settings, and we remove a whole bunch of inputs. So I'm going to get rid of all these daily things and weekly ones. I want to see monthly. I want to get rid of all that stuff, and then I want to go down through here, and traditionally what I do is I'll get rid of probably that one and that one, just leave the monthly pivot up. Means it's a little bit cleaner. So monthly pivots matter a lot on the SPX. Do your analysis. I crap on about this a lot for a reason. Please do your analysis on SPX or the real market code, yeah? Do not do your analysis on US 500. When you do it on that, you're doing all of your analysis on a market that is open all the time, or at least in futures trade. It doesn't necessarily reflect what Wall Street is using because it will give you a slightly off number. So please do remember that whenever possible. So we've seen now for the last couple of months, let's go to a weekly here and just quickly talk about how it's been touching these zones. So notice that we got very close to the monthly R1, sold off that event. We then actually hovered around the central for a little while, and then we went down to things like the S1 over here, and sorry, the S2 over here, the S1. We had a touch of the R1. All of these levels were pretty solid when we were looking at these markets. We'll see it when it opens up today. We should get the new pivots on this particular chart, and we'll go back and visit that. Let's have a look at the US 500 now coming into market open, and just talk about where it is coming into the market open. So it's hit that resistance in futures. We mentioned this one, 33.23. I think Mark said that before, and we said it in the video on the weekend. 33.20 to 33.40, where this wick is. We expected the market to come back up to this, potentially test it. The first hour of trade is going to be the funny bugger. That's going to be the one where we've got really a whole bunch of retail traders getting in, positioning, all those types of things. But after that point, if we see weakness after the market opens and it starts to come back down, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get back under these levels here, maybe even like a 3,300, that we go back down and test this 32.40, 32.30 zone. So for now, the market is firmly in selling pressure. This is the first time that we've seen a 50 exponential on the 2 hour. I just went to the 2 hour for a reason, because we finally got through that 20 there. This is definitely some accumulation base and buying pressure, but the first hour is just not going to show us enough. We'll go over to some more questions. We'll write down a few of these ones. We'll look at J&J very, very soon. So send in some of the bigger companies that you want me to look at. I generally do like to look at the big ones. EZ says, don't be caught short, guys. Look, we are definitely mostly bulls on this channel, predominantly EZ, but you know, there is also a lot of event risk this week. So we'll see how we go. AMD long-term hold, says Jimmy. Yeah, AMD is doing really well. They're smashing it. Lonnie says, Tom, do you think there are any election scenarios that could make the market flat? Maybe Biden wins but doesn't have the Senate, something like that. Possibly the market thinks it's like neutral. I think if Trump wins, possibly a sugar rush in the market straight away. Just a reminder as well, we really don't want to get too political on the channel, so which is purely financial as much as possible. MC says, thanks for your time as always, Tom. Big week ahead. Looking forward to the planned live streams. Good night, chat. Soon. No worries, MC. Have very good sleep. What's your outlook on BTH? Have a look at that. Just writing some of this stuff down so I remember it. So please do send through as much as possible. Can you look at Barrick Gold? Yeah, we can certainly look at that. So US 500, we expect it to stop here. I'm actually looking at US 100, the Nasdaq, the 200-point favorite. I love that level. That 11.2, what a beautiful level. Hopefully people were thinking about that one. They've been thinking about these levels moving on down. Remember, 4-hour 20s have been just stellar recently. Eventually it won't be, but very, very interesting to see a pre-market bullish run with now a little bit of selling. Usually the market will open at a key critical resistance support zone. So we'll look at Barrick, and then we'll look at Square, and then we've got a whole bunch of others to look at as well. Just quick thing with VWAP. A few people ask me about VWAP, whether I use it or not. I'm not much of a scalper anymore because I can't be bothered. And the time frame charts are just, you know, you've always got to be in front of them. But if you're someone that's a scalper, you can certainly use VWAP. 5 minutes is clearly the best. And just remember, with VWAP, I think it's really strong in stocks. And I think it does very well there. In currencies, not so much. But in stocks, I think it's very, very strong. And the way I would be doing it is getting maybe like a moving average. We've got the 20, 50, and 200 here. If you're using VWAP, you could always look at it where if the VWAP is intersecting with, let's say, another moving average, and it's coming back to that zone throughout the day of trade, then you can always look at that as a very strong level of resistance or support, especially if you can price action it. So if you're getting like here, you had a bit of a horizontal line, previous support, resistance, 50, VWAP, downtrend overall, so you're selling in the trend. There's a nice little scalp there. Talked about Neo a few times already for everyone out there. If you want to zoom back through the live stream near the start, we definitely have talked about it. Basically, our thought process is strong, report, looks good. From that aspect, probably a sell after it though, as people take profit. Biden victory will be good for Neo if it happens. Okay, let's get into some of these. So we have first up Square. Then we've got Barrick. So Square coming off. Now this is probably a good example of when things go wrong in terms of if you're a retail community member and you're buying like a vertical stock like this. When things sell off, look at the aggressive sell-off. We got a 193, 190 kind of 2 area up here, and it's already come back to 154. So I never want people to get caught in this situation. It's kind of like Neo. You have an earnings report. It looks glorious. Do you really want to jump in on that kind of report day? It's already happened. It's already moved 10%. If you're not in it, why chase it right now? It's a trap that everyone gets caught up in. Try not to get caught up in that as much as possible. So for Square, I think that right here should be some level of buying pressure. And then if it gets any further down, where's it going to go to? Most likely the 20 exponential on the weekly, something it has not touched in a long time. I actually think it'll get slightly under that and come test this level. Let's have a look at it on the daily and just talk about why. So I'd be drawing a zone. So really what I'd do is probably put a little rectangle up here, draw a zone across these two zones, and just think, now that we're moving down quite aggressively, we've clearly got through this area on the daily, okay? So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back up, comes back down, and into this zone. It is earnings week for this share, so this stock is going to move probably pretty huge off that. If it doesn't win, as in it doesn't do better than expectation, would not be surprised at all to see it even crack this level. But this is a very, very nice zone overall. 20 exponential on the weekly, previous supports, previous resistance, probably a fib as well, worthwhile considering in there. Check out gold. Take a look at that. So this one here broke below, came down to kind of the Buffett buy zone. So I think Buffett bought it around here, around this 26. He was accumulating it before it went up. So it came back down to the 26, went a little bit lower. Now that gold's rebounding, gold's hedged long a little bit at the moment. It's bouncing up. I don't see it as a bad buy, this stock. I think if you look at things like a weekly and we consider where it is right now and where it could go, I'm not too fussed about, like, I don't think it's a underpriced or overpriced. I think it's probably a fair value if you want to get into those kind of moves. Super fair value is obviously back down to these 22s, previous resistances, but you're probably not going to see that. So I'd be looking at the weekly close and then maybe even just checking out this monthly holding above. But at this point, there's not too much I would do. I'd just say, look, this is, if you want to buy it and you're investing in it, it's not the worst price ever. Check out gold price more and think about what can happen with that. Okay, so we've got JNJ up next. So this stock has been doing pretty okay. It's been kind of chopping slightly up over time. We saw in the crisis period it get pretty low, but still act defensively, and now it's sold off quite aggressively. Traditionally, this 200 has been holding it. So let's take the outlier event, the psycho event, out of the way and just consider what happened previously. Every time it's declined down to this 200, it's been bought up. We're seeing that right now happening in this particular stock. So 200, slightly wick below, strong purchasing. 200, strong purchasing. 200, strong purchasing. You have to ignore this because, well, the strong purchasing afterwards, but that was the crisis. You know, all sorts of weird things happened there. So I think the 200 was your main barrier here on the weekly. Again, with stocks, if you're investing or trading, check your weeklies. Weekly matters a lot. So very, very nice little bit of buying there. Let's have a look now on the smaller time frames. Go to the daily. Good structure, resistance over here. Again, I would ignore this to a degree because of the ferociousness of the move. A lot of TA, what they'll do is they'll kind of like ignore that completely. They'll consider that like a flash crash. Heaps of people want AMD. I hear you guys. I hear you. We'll do AMD. It's funny. We'll take a look at Snap as well. Shane, Australian $20. Thanks very much, Shane. You are an amazing supporter of the stream. I appreciate that. He says, night, Tom and all. Go back, Prince Aaron. Not sure what that means. But thanks there, Shane, man. Probably it went right over my head, mate. But thanks very much for the 20. So we've got here the 135, so a 5 level. Remember, stocks gravitate towards psychological zones. If it's above or anything above 50 or 40 or anything like that, it's really going to trade to $5 and $10 zones. So 145, 150, 155, all those types of things. If we're considering 135, it makes sense for it to buy off it. This is a daily close as well. It's a bullish hammer, and it seems to have a bit of flow through on it right now. So we've got bullish hammer off the 135. Where to next? Probably up here or around here. So right where it is now in the pre-market. I'm not huge on buying into earnings. I don't like buying these types of growth stocks that are going wild into earnings, because we've seen that's been buy the rumor, sell the news event. All right, AMD up next. Let's take a look at that. AMD is on the critical support. It must hold this level. We've mentioned this several times throughout our live analysis. This is crunch time for AMD. Secretly, I kind of want it to get low, because where does it go? It could go kind of low and then give us a pickup. But AMD is well ahead right now. This has been a hot sector. And again, hot sectors usually ride off. Let's talk about it. So we have a tip over here, a head over here, a crazy right shoulder over here. But more importantly, we have a 76 zone. 70, what is this? Let me just quickly just line that up. 74.40 zone that just bounced off. So for anyone that bought that and is in like a bit of a day trade, good work. You did good charts. If it gets under here though, there is nothing holding this back. Look at the structure on the left-hand side. If this goes during the election this week, it will be very, very sold off very heavily, and it could go all the way to 60. And the main reason, because we've got a bit of a pattern up here with like, when some people would say left shoulder, right shoulder kind of pattern, they would say this is a key critical zone, and there's just no market structure. So for a lot of traders like myself, like I don't know if I'd be buying in this zone. I've just seen so much filling. Maybe the 200 I'll look at, previous kind of buy zone as well. Yeah, for me, that's the type of thing I'm looking at in AMD. I hope it doesn't get through there for buyers, for people that hold it. The futures up or down? A few questions. The futures are up at the moment. If you want to know what's going on, you always want to click on finviz.com, check that out. Have a look at the screener, click futures, and then you'll be able to see. So we're down a little bit off where we were before, but we're still holding 1.42 up on Dow Jones, 1.14 up on S&P, and Nasdaq 0.77. So here's a question for the room, because I always like gauging this quite a lot in terms of what people are thinking. Do people think that after the US election, are we going to be up or down? I'll give it to the room. Say up or down after the US election. Let's see what the community thinks. Let me know, up or down. While we're doing that, we'll move over to Snap. It's funny how we never talked about Snap on this channel until it had that big breakout and everyone started talking about it again. I must admit, I am not a fan of Snap, but obviously Good Report made it go crazy. I think the Good Report hype will break off and we will see selling pressure come into this stock pretty hard. So Snap here, it really just kind of coming into what I would have said was an investable period. I've mentioned quite a few times that, oh, thank you very much for everyone coming through with their thoughts. I probably should make like a straw poll for it. 1 second. Hold back, guys. Let me just make a quick straw poll. I'm really interested to see what the general rules are here. Let me just create a poll. All right. Bring that up. All right, create poll. Get this one in the room. We'll do it from this way for now. Okay. All right, send this to the room. Feel free to add to it. I think this will be a way easier way of doing the click, and we'll check that one out in a few minutes. Thank you very much. I'll vote. I'm going to go with all right, I voted. Let's see how it comes in. I'll bring it on in just a few moments. Okay, we'll take a look at Snap. So Snap, crazy good result. Obviously did well. I think it sells off now. Comes back down to some form of unison. This was a big hype result. Do not be surprised at all for it to come back down to 35. Main reason, it wants to hit a 20, come back to mean reversion effectively, and then it might continue on. So I think that Snap's looking relatively weak right now. Go into the smaller time frames. All you want to do is really think about, well, what's this really telling me? We've got a high, an almost test of the high, an intervening trough or an intervening line here, and we're broken underneath that. Now we get a new low, really big follow on through probably to 35. It happens quite a lot in the tech stocks, especially when they've got such an explosive move up. So I would not be surprised at all for it to come back to that 20 moving average. Let's have a look now at these reports. So here we go. So we've got here the straw poll results so far. So we've got 39 votes coming in with the down. We've got up 25 votes and we've got flat 2 votes. So that's interesting. So basically the general community is thinking down overall. Now we know that if this was more skewed towards, this is not a big subset data, but if this was more skewed to everyone saying down, then it would probably go up, yeah? Because unfortunately, that's usually what a good indicative idea of what everyone's thinking. But it's a bit of a mixture here, which really shows that it could be a bit of a mix-up. I think, again, if we get a Democratic win, the market may decline initially, especially driven by oil, maybe a snap kind of down market there. Everyone kind of freaks out, and great buy opportunities for all, because we're not really expecting necessarily a huge crash in the markets right now, just a bit of a corrective move, maybe down to the 3,000. Did I vote flat? No one can see my vote there, can you? Blue Jeans 725 says down then up option. I tend to agree with you there, Blue Jeans. That's a good bit move. Christina says up again. Yeah, so definitely quite a few people's opinions here, which is great. Okay, so Snap, I just think it's kind of a too big a move, and therefore we are going to have a cool off regardless of the election and what's going on there. Let's have a quick look at Microsoft. Microsoft's come down to this zone quite a few times now. Right on this 200 psychological's been basically the buy for Microsoft. It hit 200, bought off it. Now we've got a pre-market 204.40. Just a quick reminder for everyone that thinks the market may be opening in 11 minutes. Because of daylight savings, we will not see the market open now for another 1 hour and 11 minutes. So it's a little while away yet in the pre-market, unfortunately. Jimmy says, do not buy Snap at these prices. I tend to agree with Jimmy. It's very, very tough to buy here. It's a classic trap, unfortunately. Classic trap. So Microsoft's been very, very strong at 200. What happens if it falls through 200? Well, it didn't body close underneath here. It just gapped under. Remember, there has not been a zoom in here. No body close. No body close under 200 yet on the daily. So be looking at that as your main signal for Microsoft. It creates a very easy trade as well, because the trade is basically that it will go back down to this 190. There's $10 in it. And then there is going to be buying pressure around this 187 to 190 zone. Previous resistances will act as support. There will be some buying pressure. I'd be very surprised to see Microsoft any under 180. Crazy stock price, really. But yeah, this is going to be strong buying. Quickly look at Apple as well. I'm surprised we're not getting asked about Apple. What's happening? Everyone asked me about Apple a few weeks ago. All we could talk about was Apple, and now people are bored of it. That usually means it's a great time to buy. But we've got here 109.35 for Apple. Could it get back down to the 104? We mentioned last time we thought that 3,200 would synergize with 100 for Apple because of the aggressive selling. didn't quite happen, but I still think 100 is going to be a big psychological level. I just put like a long-term alert on it. If you ever see it and it happens, remember 100 will be bought by retail traders, it will be bought by algorithms, and it will be bought by just generally kind of brokers and stuff putting clients in around those levels. Probably see just before 100. But this is looking pretty weak here. Apple is not looking so strong. But it's had a good earnings realistically other than the China figures. So, yeah, 108 maybe is the next buy zone for now. Mark says Apple complacency. Apple double bottom. Where are you seeing the double bottom there, Agus? Oh, what do I think of AMP? Susboy definitely from Australia. AMP. I kind of want to look at it. It's a horrible company, isn't it, this one? So AMP's had a buyout announcement on it for anyone Australian. Basically, this is a super company. Check out this. This is when the government gets involved in a company. Look at this. So the government created Royal Bank inquiry, basically destroy this company. look what they did. This was once a $20 stock. Look at it, $1.68. Terrible. IPO, like about $20, and then it's down here. So it's had an offer on it. It's strengthened. I'm pretty bullish on it being worth more than the sum of its parts. So I guess this is what I really thought would happen, probably about $2. So I'd hope it gets back to these kind of highs over here, 190. We see offers continue to go up. But yeah, AMP's in all sorts of trouble. It's one of those stocks you just want to get the hell out of, but you know, maybe upwards of the $192 on my thought process. It's more just all about buyouts there. DraftKings. Oh, I didn't know it came down this much. Well, the prophecy was correct. We hadn't come back to DraftKings for a while, but we knew this thing would get blasted. Anyone that's been watching for a while, we have been calling the demise of this evil thing that's up way too high. So DraftKings, look, is a great premise. It's a great company concept. But wow, that stock was overpriced. Now that's coming back down. Can we get a $30? I'd love to see 30. I reckon there'd be buying pressure at 30. Previous, you can already see there's a huge amount, little bit of support there, a little bit of resistance, a little bit of support. Now that it's kind of really declined here, DKNG, this is one of my most hated stocks. I hated this stock for its price before. Don't dislike because of that. But yeah, back down to 30 makes some sense. And then I think there'll be buying pressure there. How's our Snowflake going? Is it Snowflake? I don't even remember. Is our Snowflake dead yet? Not yet. Look at it move. Wow, went to 300 again. So this one we will continue to watch throughout our Monday sessions. Throughout our live sessions, we will watch the Snowflake. I believe that this Snowflake company is not worth this price due to its exorbitant price on list and then crazy moves. So we'll definitely continue to watch the Snowflake. So for me, DraftKings, around that $30 would be very, very interesting. Check out McDonald's, another favorite of me probably. So McDonald's went to the 230, pretty strong price really for it, maybe a little bit too strong. Now it's declined here, mostly due to, well, just the general market, but also possibly thoughts on second shutdowns throughout America a little bit and Europe and everything like that. It will hurt this one. I'd love to see McDonald's come back to a 200 price, previous resistance becoming support, and very, very nice buy zone. Remember, McDonald's benefits for a long time high unemployment. Just remember that. High unemployment. Pavel, 5-minute warning. Not sure what you mean, but we're not going to see 5 minute. The market won't open at 12:30 for me. It's going to open at 1:30. So yeah, overall, McDonald's here, we probably see it come back to a 200 handle if we continue to see weakness in the market. It is an amazing company from a high unemployment standpoint. Unfortunately, in high unemployment, people tend to eat this kind of bad crap. And when you eat bad crap, it does well. If you actually look at the GFC, the global financial crisis, McDonald's was the only green stock throughout the GFC. Thanks very much for all the subscriptions coming in over there. 250 likes. Thank you so much to the community for that, and the donations tonight, and anyone that is, of course, part of the trading community. I appreciate your support. Appreciate it a lot. So, yeah, McDonald's definitely declining here because of the shutdowns around the world. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see a 200 handle here, but overall, very strong on the unemployment play, which is going to be around for a while. Can we bring up Amazon? Yeah, we can. We still need to bring up a few other stocks as well that have been requested. Always worthwhile checking out all of these. So Amazon, after the earnings announcement, not really handling it so well. Wouldn't say it's a value stock. This stock, I think, will struggle off no stimulus. So if we believe, let's say you're a believer, no stimulus till January, okay? So we get no stimulus till January. What do we think is going to happen with Amazon? Well, firstly, it's certainly going to come and pressure this 2,900, yeah? But if it gets underneath this zone, we've spoken about this a lot of times, we could be seeing very easily a 2,600 or lower Amazon. Let's put it on the weekly quickly and just consider where it is. So it's back down on the 20. Traditionally, this has been the buy zone for Amazon. A 3,000 approximation handle, so just around 3,016 here. It hit the 20, and that was the buy zone last time, which is what we talked about. It could be the buy zone again. It's one of those things where if you've been looking for Amazon, you are getting a $500 price discount down at these prices. And off the top, a little bit more. If we don't think there's stimulus, though, it is going to hurt Amazon. I can't see it not hurting them. So right now, I didn't buy anything from Amazon during their sale recently either. It sucked. I bought a lot less myself from Amazon recently in Australia. I just don't think it's been offering great deals. So if that's the way that a lot of other people are doing things and we don't see stimulus, don't be surprised at all for it to come back down to the 50 exponential on the weekly, which is going to be around the 20. Yeah, no worries, Pavel. Yeah, no, the US time switch has got us all today. Jimmy says, McDonald's is a real estate play. They own more real estate than people think. Ask yourself, how many times have you driven past a McDonald's store and seen a for sale sign on the property? None. Zero zip. It's also incredibly tightly held. One of the best franchises to own. I have friends that own McDonald's. I wish I owned a McDonald's. It's a cash. Oh, it's ridiculous. In Australia, we call it Macca's. And it is ridiculous. They make cash. Easy cash. There's a bit too many of them now, but they certainly did make easy cash a few years ago. So Amazon is really just, remember, consumer discretionary. We talked about, I think it's XLY before. It's going to suffer heavy if we don't see stimulus. Look to the election and then come up with your own plan on when you believe the stimulus is going to come through, and you can plan very efficiently around that XLY play. Go back up here. I had a few other questions. A few people asking me about copper. So we have been using copper as a bit of a guide to market crash sentiment. Not so much necessarily as whether we should be buying or selling instantly, but if copper just starts randomly declining, often that can be a precursor of other things. If you want to just see how copper reacted, let's go back to the January. So we heard about the news of this stupid thing that's happened this year to all of us, and 15th of Jan, it started selling off hard. Look at that, hard. Now, the markets did not sell off hard at the same time. When that type of thing happens, that is precursoring a crash. Just remember, copper is worthwhile considering when it comes to being a kind of market sentiment indicator. Now, if copper isn't crashing and it isn't diving much, and right now it's just holding around the right level, then it just really shows more of a corrective phase. Yeah, Blue Jeans, AMP did so many bad things for their own. They're a horror. They're a horror company. AMP's biggest concern, if you want to know AMP's biggest problem, it was buyer of last resort. So when they bought all the books, a lot of people don't know this, they paid 4 times. So that basically means that if they were making $1, instead of the usual going rate, which was like $2, so you'd pay 2 years worth of earnings, they were paying 4 years worth of earnings on everything. They weren't they had to. It was a agreement they had. I'm not sure what McDonald's value is in terms of real estate. Maybe someone in the room has an idea. Jimmy's giving it to us. Tom looked at buying McDonald's franchise in Cyprus, Napa back in 1994, back when they wanted $1.5 million US. Yeah, they wanted 1 million for a long time, Jimmy. 1 million's been a big buy zone for McDonald's for a long time. 1.5 million US in Cyprus. Wow. Okay, let's have a look around the markets here. Let's look at these futures coming in. So we'll talk about the US 100 first. We've got US 100 sitting at 11,200 here. Found that resistance. We've got multiple support touches on the futures. We've got a 20 exponential moving average, which has been touched multiple times throughout this. Horton, by the way, asked that question again, and I'll answer it. I don't see it anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, 20 exponential moving average here. Support, resistance. We think that probably the market will pick up a little bit now into the open. Usually the retail community buys in the open, and then we see after the first hour. Mondays, the first hour sucks. Remember this, people. We don't talk about it, but the first hour has been traditionally pretty bad for retail community, and then the market has gone the opposite direction. It's a bit of a joke that when we stop the stream, the market sells off. It's done it about 4 times now in the last month. Yeah, we're getting a bell. The bell's going to be there. Benjamin, it's not open yet. We've got a US daylight savings. Bell in 1 hour, unfortunately. We started a little bit early just because it's a big week. It's a great week. One thing everyone in America can be super proud of, it's awesome to see everyone get out and vote. I think that's cool. I love the fact that people in America are taking it seriously from a voting perspective. That's really great. In Australia, we all have to vote or we get fined. But it's good to see people taking it seriously. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I always like it when people take that stuff seriously to a degree. Okay, going through some more questions here. Keep bringing them in. We've got some other stuff to have a look at. So US 100 is going to be the main one we look at today. Let's have a look at DXY. We haven't even talked about the US dollar yet. Funny that, isn't it? I don't know why we haven't talked about this one yet. So dollar index, bullish at the moment. Bullish into the election. Shows that people have fear at the moment. So we've got the 94 coming into the market open. 94 should act as some buying pressure, just being the round number. We had previous 93.85, 93.85. Beautiful little coil off here. Nice bullish hammer. That's a good flow on. Gapped up today and now has retraced. So we want to see buying pressure in this zone. Let's just quickly use our rectangular tool over here to add this to our charts. And then from that perspective, we can basically say in this zone, we should be seeing some buying pressure. I wouldn't be surprised if it's waiting for the 4-hour 20. It hasn't touched that in a long time. So maybe we see some dollar weakness in the start of the open. The 20 comes up here. It taps that 20, finds support, buying pressure, 93.50. Previous resistance is around 94.50. 94.50, 94.60. I would not be surprised at all before the election for us to be up here on the US dollar, basically testing resistance highs. Remember, coming into the epic news of the election day, we should see stocks, we should see some key instruments testing support or resistance. And then we've got non-farms after that, where probably the dollar will go and again test some support resistances. Amachan says, just buy Alphabet. We have never heard that before, Amachan. No one ever has said buy Alphabet. That is funny. Mark says you get fined. Yeah, man, we get fined about $150, maybe. I don't know. I haven't been fined. Maybe it's $200. Jimmy says $200. There you go. 200 Australian dollars. We get fined for everything here in Australia. If you're talking in a car, I think it's like $600, maybe $700. If you're touching your phone in the car and they catch you, they love finding us. Baba, yes, we haven't done that yet. Baba definitely been a popular one recently. So it's come back to a 50 exponential in the 4 hour, come back to the roll reversal. Should have seen buying pressure and it did. Good little pickup zone here. Resistance, acted as support. Nice little 50 timing in with the 300 as well. So it does make sense. If it gets through that zone, we have to go to a bigger time frame and start thinking about what's up next. And we'll go to a weekly here just to see how far away it is from our precious 20. Been a while since it hit the 20 now. Big move up. Could be extended as well. I think Baba kind of suffers from a lot of the Amazon problem as well, to a degree. There is still, a lot of stuff to do with stimulus coming out. So I could see very easily a 275 here on Baba. But for now, it's on buying pressure. 300, a break under 300, I think could expose as low as 275. And that's just purely more of a guess than anything else. We don't have too many great technicals here. It's been very bullish. But this was the buy zone for day traders and investors. If they wanted a slight discount, I wouldn't personally take that up. I think that it's a little bit overbought. Thanks very much for all the subscriptions coming in there as well. Appreciate that. We're definitely going for 30K over the next month or so. I really do appreciate the community out there. It's been amazing, the support we've gotten. Philip says, I was shocked how strict Australia was on speeding fines. Oh, they get you. I once got hit 3 times in a row by a faulty camera. That sucked. Australia is a fine place. It certainly is, Mr. Computer Guy. You get fined for taking the flag out now, don't you, Mark? I think if you take an Australian flag and you fly it, you get fined. Probably get fined for everything. Schiller PE ratio, says Blue Army. Yeah, so Schiller is a pretty cool PE ratio. I used to pay a lot of attention to it, but really the problem with Schiller PE is that it doesn't really account for some of the problems that we have in the economies right now in terms of we have lots of tech stocks. They deserve to have high multiples on them due to the growth, and Schiller can't really equate for that. So we've got a Schiller PE here at 29.90. This is historically very high away from the mean and median. Some people use this. Obviously, Schiller PE is a little bit different. It's price to earnings ratio based on an average inflation adjusted earnings from the previous 10 years. So this is a cyclically adjusted one. Basically, I don't pay as much attention to Schiller. I think that we aren't going back to these levels. Now, we could, but I don't think so. Even though it was historical, I think more likely in the current money situation that we might come back down to a 25 at some point, but I don't think much lower. Fined for fishing without a license. That's true, Mark. I was actually out fishing. I caught some glorious snapper on the weekend. I was pretty happy with that. All right. So back onto the markets anyway. Let's have a look at what else is going on. So we've got that oil retracement. Look at this. That's a big oil retracement during the stream. It's about $1 something, I think, on oil coming up. This could be cool. We might see this during the open. Maybe oil continues its bull run here, this bull movement. We get this 36.81. We talked about supports acting as resistance with a 200 simple moving average. So definitely one to watch here for oil. Let's bring up a few of our other charts. Bitcoin, quickly talk about this. We missed it before. So BTC, Bitcoin, very beautiful weekly close here, well outside of course, the 12,000. Went straight up, hit that kind of 13,877, slightly above 14K, and then it sold off. We've talked about the zone. We spoke about how it was going to act as some form of selling pressure. Why wouldn't you? If you know it trades like retail community trades, we all trade off psychological zones. It does a very similar thing. Hits the resistance, sells off. Where to next? For me, I'm looking for actually a decline in Bitcoin now and a movement back down to the 12,000 where there'll be super buying support. That's just my kind of thought process. I think that Bitcoin has a tendency to have a very big run up and then sell off. Let's bring on an indicator here. Bring on RSI, and we'll use that. Bring on the RSI. So RSI got super bullish here, and we saw a super bullish movement last time as well. So let's just think about the psychology of the movement. we had a move above 10,000. This is good for when you're wanting to trade a stock or an index or anything like that. You understand the instrument, you know how it plays the game. So what happens? It comes through the 10,000. Crazy overbought RSI. It then very quickly moves up, hits the next level being the 12,000, and then starts to hover around that zone. So basically that's when it, all the nice moves happen. This is the trap. The trap gets set. So right now we're setting the trap, and then we probably move down. Now notice it came back down, tested the 10,000. This was a beautiful buy zone. Congratulations to everyone that bought those wicks. Look at that. Oh, such a great buy zone. I love wick rejections, guys. This many wick rejections off a key psychological shows a huge amount of accumulation. If you ever see this, wick rejection on dailies, all off the nice level, great accumulation. So hit the 12,000, did its little thing. RSI then started declining, coming back down into the zone. I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to happen again. A lot of people, I saw channels calling Bitcoin 40,000 recently. Nah, I don't think so. Look, 20K, sure, we can definitely reach it, but I wouldn't be surprised at all for a pullback. Jimmy says market will open in 46. Yeah, let's get hyped. We're not far away now from Monday election week market bell open. And we're also almost at an all-time record of concurrent viewers. So thank you so much everyone out there that's been subscribing, liking the video, supporting us. Really do appreciate that. I try to put as much effort in as possible while still maintaining, of course, our investment business and everything else that we do. So I do appreciate everyone coming out for these sessions. They're just so much fun when we do them on Mondays. Quick reminder, we are doing a US election special this week, talking about financial markets during the back end of the day of the election. I think it's going to be crazy, crazy futures. Mark's just got so many fines. Mark, have you been fined a lot in Australia? I feel like you have. You know all of the fines. Fined in the library car park, he says. The Buffett indicator says unexpected visit. So the Buffett indicator was a glorious and great indicator back in the day, as in when Buffett used it. I think it was a cool idea. So if anyone's not familiar with what the Buffett indicator is, definitely go read up on it. It's a really great idea, but in the world of globalization, it is a little bit different. I think tech stocks kind of ruined the Buffett indicator a little bit, but it's super, super vertical right now if we look at the number. Jimmy says, Tom, why are you called FX Evolution and not Stock Evolution? So FX Evolution was a company that we created for basically teaching technical analysis, Jimmy. We do have courses. I don't plug them very much on the channel because no one really wants to hear me talk about all that all day, but you can go to fxevolution.com. And realistically, we were doing a lot of Forex because technical analysis is really strong in Forex. It is. It's strong in commodities. It's strong in Forex. It's great in stock as well. But most people always use the fundamentals in stock and they just kind of buy zones. What I like is I like to think about psychology of the people investing in the stock. I like to use the fundamentals to get an idea of value, of growth trajectory, of projections, all those types of things. And then I use the technical analysis to get value zones. So that doesn't mean value stock. It just means better buy areas and pinpoint the investment zones that I'm interested in. If you use all three together, you will be a better investor. My opinion. Yeah, I know what Alphabet Inc. is Amachand. I just think I'm saying that Google isn't being spoken about as an investment because everyone was super negative on it. I wasn't, but a lot of people were. Liam says BTC 13K. Tom says BTC likes 500s and thousands. Absolutely. BTC loves 500s and thousands. I still think 12 is very much on the cards though. It's a pretty big move and it may not be able to hold up. We'll see what happens after the US election. So let's have a quick look at Treasury yields. A few people calling this one before the stream, I noticed. So Treasury yields over here has been on the rise. That's actually usually, well, some people would say that's correlated with negative on the Nasdaq. I've got the Nasdaq correlated with it here right now. Another great thing about if you have TradingView, you can basically just do comparisons and chuck on charts and type in symbols and all of that. It's really, really nice to be able to compare things together with each other. But Treasury yields has been on the rise. We have not seen a price this high since June. And at that point, we did have a little bit of a decline after. It was kind of like it went up and then we saw a decline in the markets. I'm not reading too much into this right now in terms of bond movements or Treasury yields or anything ahead of the election. Yeah, no open yet. We're going to see open in 44 minutes, everybody. What do we think about Tesla? So we mentioned that quite a little bit before. We will look over Tesla again. I know it's a favorite of the room. So for the first time, it's closed below these 50 exponentials on the daily. Remember, 20, 50, 200 simple is what we're using here. Daily, very important. So is weekly chart. So we've got a 388, pre-market 394 now. I think we could certainly see a 350, but don't be surprised if we don't get down there. Let's say for some unknown reason, Biden wins, the market goes down, Tesla goes to 350. It's probably a pretty good buy. And there's a couple of reasons, but if that does happen, technically Tesla should benefit off that. Thoughts on Facebook? That's a good one. So with Tesla, really, the thought process at the moment is that it somehow got through that 50 exponential, and it seems like a lot of the community's gone on to NEO. So expect Tesla to weaken as money gets out of Tesla and goes to the next best great thing, which is NEO at the moment. Facebook, definitely a decline last week. We're now seeing a 263, so slightly down in the pre-market. So let's just have a quick look there. We've got support around the 260 level, previous buy again here. Now, if it gets through there, where do we go next? Well, traditionally, we went down to this 250 zone, previous resistances and supports. Guess that makes sense, possibly even a 240. I think this is probably where the market ends up. This would be in line with a 3,000 S&P. Basically, in this zone here would be in line with a 3,000 S&P. So when we talk about our S&P in only a few moments, we'll do a full market recap on the indices. Basically, the 3,000 S&P, the market would be here. So if we see a decline after the election, traditionally we see a decline after the election regardless of whichever party wins, being Republicans or Democrats. It's usually a weak month followed by a great Christmas rush under the Democrats statistically. Jimmy says Wayfair was the stock of the year to trade. It went from $20 to $400 in 6 months. Have a look at RVLV. Way too much trading, but concept similar to Wayfair, just with clothing. Don't know about those ones, Jimmy. We can definitely check them out. A few people coming in with wanting to look at SPY. So Facebook could certainly come back down to this level here. At right now, though, it's straight on support. Straight on support buying at 260. So it's one of those ones where you might dollar cost average in and say, well, I like Facebook. I want to own it. I know it went to 300. I think you can get there again. Maybe 260 is your buy. Then a bit more into here. Yeah, Wayfair sounds like it's no good anymore. A stock that goes from 20 to 400 usually can't hold it. So I agree with you there, Jimmy. Liam, I doubt it would implode the market. So he's got the question of, and again, it's more election talk. Sorry about that, but we are in this week. Basically, if Trump may not concede, if he loses, it would be a strange scenario. It would have to be very, very close, I guess. And that would make the market implode. I don't think so. I don't think so, Liam. I wouldn't be too concerned about that one. Berkshire long term. Yep, I've said that quite a few times. 822 viewers. Thank you very much to each and everyone out there. We are almost on an all-time record for viewers. So certainly the week to be to be looking at the market. All right, let's go over now to the US 500. Actually, we'll look at the Dow first. We'll go US 30. So we'll bring up this Dow. So Dow's had a pretty nice little bull run here. We now have the confirmed 2050 cross to the downside, which was pretty much mostly going to happen anyway. This is the one that we talked about being a potential double top. We basically had a resistance peak over here, and then we had another peak over here, kind of almost equal. So very, very close to equal. And we broke through and below those points. Now, I warned a few people on the channel and I said, look, I can't use the Dow as a very strong indicator, especially a futures Dow. And the main reason is it's given us some fake signals in the past, but it is one of those things that we'll look at still. Now, I would use it from the perspective of if the market started selling off and we believed in a very bearish case due to something that's happening in the US economy, then it would go this distance. So it would basically go a movement like this. Let's just grab that movement right now on the Dow and see where it would take us to. So the Dow would be moving, we'll go right shoulder or the right double top head. So it would basically put us back in like a 24 to 24.5 zone. And that would be super buying long term. I mean, where would this be in a fib? What I like to look at is remember fib when it comes to really hard pullbacks in the market. If we believe a corrective phase is coming even further in the market, down to a 38.250 fib is usually where you go. Remember, the market only just came to a 23.6. 23.6 fib pullback is not that deep. Usually a good corrective phase hits a 38.2 and a 50. And in this zone, don't pick either or, but in the zone overall is where we should see the pullback into. Always look at the zone of the 38.2 and the 50 fib, and then look for this kind of price action. Lightning bolt, accumulation, double bottom, inverse head and shoulders, all of those types of things on the smaller time frames, very, very strong. Most likely you see the lightning bolt. Let's break the viewer record. Cheers. Thanks very much, Brian. Appreciate that. I do appreciate everyone's support. I know I say it a lot, but it's awesome. Antonio says, hey, Tom, Dutch government is going to speak tomorrow, probably lockdown, shorting opportunity on the AEX. So that must be the Dutch market. So basically, well, the easiest way to look at things like that is just have a quick look at the FTSE 100 and see how that, or the UK 100, and see how that performed. So you just want to have a look there, see what happened after we knew that it was going to go into lockdown. Notice how it's weird. Like, we heard about the lockdown, a few days ago, and it's been buying since then. Often it does the opposite. It's probably already selling into it. So definitely check that out. FTSE 100, by the way, if you're trading this or you're from the UK, welcome. Then you would be very, very strongly looking at this 5800, 5785. Look at this. This is a straight 1, 2, 3 here. So we have support, 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 20 exponential moving average. Increase, bang. Definitely should have selling pressure coming back in if the market goes this way. So if it gets up there, definitely be looking at the market. We're now only 37 minutes off the open. So let's continue with our analysis there. The US 30, so the Dow Jones, we're thinking that it could be a double top and that it's come down and it's tested that support. But for now, we've got buying pressure into the market open. Let's now take a look at the Russell 2000, another index that we always look at. So this is the US 2000, the small companies. We'll have a look at the Webull pre-market screener as well. Let's check that out. Have a look at what's happening. We're using 50 billion plus kind of companies, checking out the big ones. We will have a look at Zoom later as well. Let me just write that down. A few people want to look at Zoom. Check that one out. I noticed no one's interested in Zoom as much as they were 2 weeks ago. Another lesson to be learned about stocks that go super vertical crazy right now. Stay the hell away from them. If you're in it, follow them by a moving average, dynamically get out of those kind of things. It's awesome. But if you're not in it, oh my goodness. So we have a 1 point to the leaders here, Zoom, Tesla. This is not as strong as it was. Let's just quickly get that market up there. There we go. So BP plus 2.65, probably notable. JD.com on 1.73, Zoom as well. What else? PayPal still coming in. Earnings at the end of the day for PayPal. Please be warned that that is going to happen. Got Square earning later on in the week as well. Salesforce took a hit the other day, but it's been doing relatively well since then. Apple now only holding a 0.28% up. Now that's a big move when we think about the futures were technically 1% up plus for Apple before. So not as strong as it was before. Let's continue now with our US 2000 analysis. It's one of the things that I'd like to know. Now, please tell me, room, I've never asked this question. What are you guys trading? Are you trading? What is your index of choice? Is it S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq? Let me know right now. I want to know what everyone's trading. I'm going to guess it's S&P 500, but could not be. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not right. Give me your favorite index of those three and tell me which one it is. I'd love to know. So US 2000, we'll just quickly look over this. Bit of buying pressure here. Two little wick rejections as well. Worthwhile then dumping into things like the 1 hour and seeing the price action around the zone. Again, similar to the other markets, we're seeing kind of a resistance hit in the futures. Bit of a sell-off. Got a bit of market structure here. I think we can all see that we've got a very strong horizontal line through the 1530 here. So for any selling pressure, look at this line. Bring these lines up. We'll see it again in the S&P 500 very, very soon. Quite a few people saying QQQ. Interesting. So 1530 here, worthwhile having on your analysis. Now from the top side, if we see a breakout above here, we might even see buying pressure into the election. And possibly this was a little bit of an overcorrective phase. Why is that? We're kind of like in a little bit of a range market here on the smaller time frames. The 1 hour has been forming a series of very tight kind of lows. It breaks through. We'll take this distance right now. So we'll get the distance from the bottom to the top. We'll see whether it lines up with these previous levels. So let's grab that. Take that up there. Not quite. So 1600 would be predicting. I think that it would probably stop before that, a little bit over here. But yeah, very, very close. So that's our 1 hour analysis of the Russell. Right now, critical resistance today. We probably want to see the market open up and then sell off after the first hour for the bear side, for the corrective phase side. We'll now go to the US 500. Now, what's the community generally been saying? Nikkei. Wow. There we go. We've got a Nikkei over there. So S&P, QQQ. Okay, so I think I better start doing a bit of analysis on QQQ as well for people. People are trading the QQs. That's cool. See, it's great to always talk with you guys to know what's going on. So we'll definitely chuck that in the rotation. A few people obviously looking at Dow Jones as well. Most people not though, which is good because the Dow Jones certainly isn't as good as it used to be. So on to the US 500. If we're looking at the US 500, we've again on the 1 hour almost got a 2050 cross similar to the Russell. You'll notice it's a pretty similar chart. 3240 low. So we'll draw our horizontal line there. Well worth having the 3230, 3240 low. Again, for the bear side, a break close below here. I don't even think 3200 is safe after that. I think that's probably one of those triggers where we see continued selling pressure. We want to see the close on the daily SPX, not US 500, SPX. And then underneath that, 3000. We'll talk about that in a minute. So it's come back to this previous kind of 3320 kind of 5 zone, 29 zone. We spoke about 3340 in our video on the weekend, said that this is probably the critical point for Monday trade for the bull side. If we get through and close above here on a smaller time frame, probably then start triggering 3360, possibly even up to a 3400 coming into the election. I don't necessarily think that's that likely, but that's kind of the bull side aspect here. We're seeing bull side aspect would be a trigger past here into these previous little zones and then the 3400. This zone will be hard to get past because we've got a 200 simple moving average on the 1 hour. We can see how that's supported before. Support, 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 and then it hasn't touched it yet. It got through, but it's always going to get through at one point. So the first touch should be a significant sell pressure. Previous little bit of support here on the 1 hour because we have to trade small this week because we're trading into a US election. Looking at just dailies, it can break either way. We know they're critical levels, but from a trading perspective, these are the critical zones. So 200 simple moving average will probably be down around here by the time if it did get up. And then this zone here should act as resistance. I hope that makes some sense. Yes, QQQ is pretty much exactly the Nasdaq. But it's interesting everyone uses the code in America. So I think we've just hit an all-time record. We have passed 880. We're at 882 right now. So thank you very much for liking the video and subscribing and everything like that. So yeah, S&P 3340. If it goes to the long side, expect selling pressure at 3360 kind of area where that 200 is. worthwhile marking those up. If you're a bit of a trader or scalper or anything, I think it's worthwhile considering them. Let's go out to the higher time frames and talk about everything coming in. We'll look at our pivots after the open as well. We should see our pivot opens on the SPX. Remember, do your big weekly analysis. Which one are we going to do it on? Generally SPX. We want to see where the SPX body closes have been. So we've got our zone drawn up around this area. We're now closed below on the SPX, the 20 exponential moving average, which could point to further selling pressure. We haven't been under the 20 for quite a while, but traditionally when we've got under the 20 before, it's hit the 50, but not for long. So if we are going to move down, we could go down to the 50 very, very quickly, or even a little bit lower. I've talked about 3,000 quite a lot. I think 3,000 is a super buy zone on the market. There's so many reasons why, fib pullback, all of those types of things. If we consider this as a double top, the 3,000 kind of 2,900 level as well is the completion of all of that. So yeah, I've definitely got this in my alerts. I've got like a 30-20 kind of alert there just in case. But I think there's going to be buying pressure off here and a close below this weekly over here. The 32.10 area is going to trigger a lot of selling the week after. That's going to be under the monthly, under the weekly, very important levels and zones. 4 hour, a few people are saying, check that one out. So I'm not sure if you're seeing 4 hour there, Marco, head and shoulders. I'm not sure if you're using the futures or the SPX, but I'm not quite seeing that one. If you're talking about an inverse head and shoulders, so you're talking more about the fact that you had like a left here and a head, and then maybe could be a right shoulder. I'm not sure I would necessarily use it like that. Remember, if you're looking at head and shoulders, you're using TA in the markets, what you generally want to do is don't just think about it as a pattern and go, oh yes, that's great, I'm going to call it a head and shoulders or whatever. We want to try to take the subjectivity as much as possible out of our TA. So to do that, how do we do that? Well, we think about it from a psychological price action perspective as well. Basically, a head and shoulders is showing us a lightning bolt. We've got a trough, we've got a peak, got a higher trough, and then we get a higher peak on the break of the neckline. Now, if the right shoulder is smaller than the left shoulder, what that's showing is that the market did pull back. There was bearish pressure, but the bearish pressure wasn't that strong. So we had a very heavy buy side. Remember, a pattern is just market psychology. It's just dynamics of the market. So that's definitely one of the things. A few people asking what's going on with NEO. It had an earning report, I believe, that was really good, JN. So that's why it's up so much. So the market, yeah, really is finding that psychological level, gets through this level, and that's showing a very, very strong bullish side. So if you're ever unsure of whether something's a pattern or not, look for body closes. Body closes are the key on the real markets. They're the best thing, not the wicks. And when the market makes a new high or something like that, has it made a lightning bolt off the zone? Has it accumulated and broken out of an accumulation? It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to make some kind of logical sense. Yeah, NEO is very, very high. So quite a few people mentioning NEO. It's up 11.51. That's about 3% up since we talked about it before. Very, very strong. It was at 33 before this. And this shows you that pre-market high. I have a prediction. I'll make a prediction. So I say NEO goes strong into the open and then sells. And then probably sell at the end of the day will not hold this loan. Let's see. Okay, it's a prediction. It's a complete prediction. But we've had it quite a few times recently with these bullish stocks where they've gone a little bit higher, packed up, kind of got the retail. Everyone's been buying them. It happened a lot with, what was that scam share? What was the scam share? I didn't ever buy it. We talked about it heaps for a while there. Can someone tell me what's that other car company that was terrible? Damn, it was bad. The one with the dodgy CEO that kind of like ran away. You know, I'm not saying NEO's like that one, but basically what did happen is it had incredibly strong markets. Jonathan says, why are the markets not open right now? Daylight savings. And this is just a pretty good thing, Jonathan. If you don't have an economic calendar, make sure you go to forexfactory.com or something similar to this. Grab your obviously free calendar, set it to your time frame, not like this one is set, and you will see daylight savings time shifts. Nikola, that's the one. God, I hate that stock. I hated it from the first moment I saw it. It reminded me of Hertz. Now, Nikola, where no one has talked about this now for about a month. So this stock was, I think every live stream we did, people came in, let's do Nikola. We got to talk about Nikola. So Nikola's earning report. So here's a crazy earnings report. Here's what happened afterwards. So we saw very strong early gains and then weakness. So I expect, again, early strong gains. Let's have a look at the 1 hour, because this was traded purely for profit. People were just like, yeah. So we had an open. The open came in. So big earnings. I think this was this earnings or was it GE buying? I don't know. But basically $46, strong couple of hours, and then a sell off at the end of the day. I don't believe it can hold a day at that price. I think it'll have a strong day initially, and then we'll see whether it can hold it. And I haven't even looked at the news. I haven't even looked at why it's up. But the way that these trade at the moment, definitely very strong. Hopefully a few of you didn't get burnt by this Nikola. God, this thing was sucked. Workhorse. That's another one, isn't it, that we've spoken about a lot, being a bit of a bull trap. Yeah, this stock was also one that we spoke about a lot. It's actually on pretty good support now. This should be the buy zone. So much buying through this level. Workhorse right on that level. But yeah, this stock was one that was bought up a lot. You can see there were some lines there we drew around some areas. But yeah, this one here did have the most buying support. It's held there for a very, very long time. A few people saying Nissan. La Movies, I will have to put you in timeout for now. Sorry, bro. Yeah, Neo reduced, had a good earnings report. I understand it had an earnings report, did 5,000 cars, did all of these things, but still, it's going to trade hype. It's going to trade a lot of hype. So we're here about 22 minutes out from the open. I'm just going to leave you for a few minutes, grab some water, get ready for what is going to be an explosive time. I'll chuck up our screener. Let's have a look at the VIX coming in as well. We have 37.5 VIX. Remember, chuck your charts on 41 VIX. Multiple resistance touches here. We know that the VIX is explosive. If it gets through, it's going to signal a whole bunch of further selling across the board. Check out Netflix as well. We've got a heavy support coming in here on Netflix. It's had a 480 pre-market, but we've got a 470 kind of very strong buying area that has happened before. Definitely do your own analysis, but it's worthwhile checking out those areas. And this is our pre-market screener that we're going to be using coming into the market open. So we've got a few things here. We've got US 100, we've got SPX. We've also got on the right-hand side, of course, the Dow. We've got gold on the bottom left, and then we've got dollar index and usually our Apple stock that we have here. But today we might change it up. So I'll let you guys decide what we have in the bottom right coming into the market open. Let me know. Right, yeah, I know Neo is not a scam like Nikola, yes. But it's still, I'm just talking about more the trade, as in the big move. So yeah, everyone can decide what we want in the bottom right. We'll just take a few people's opinions there on that one. Be back in only a few minutes, guys. Hopefully you enjoy the music. Check that on.
Broadband. Why settle for this when you could get this? Get fast broadband with TPG's new NBN 100 plan. With phenomenal 80 megabits per second typical evening speeds at an even more phenomenal price. It's just $79.99 a month for the first 6 months. Switch to TPG today.
tpg.com.au.
New customers only. $89.99 per month thereafter. Min charge $189.94. Typical evening speeds measured from 7 to 11 p.m. See website for coverage and terms.
It's alright, I'll get it. It's probably my spring ka-ching from Sportsbet. For Melbourne Cup Day, for races 1 and 2 at Flemington, finish second or third and get up to $50 back in bonus bets with Sportsbet. Conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Broadband. Why settle for this when you could get this? Get fast broadband with TPG's new NBN 100 plan. With phenomenal 80 megabits per second typical evening speeds at an even more phenomenal price. It's just $79.99 a month for the first 6 months. Switch to TPG today.
tpg.com.au.
New customers only. $89.99 per month.
You guys got slammed with ads, didn't you? Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't pay for Spotify, guys. Come on now. It's only copyright-free music. It's meant to be free. Now I'll get now the revenue for this stream just got destroyed. That's all right. Yeah, that's terrible ads. That's shocking. I came in, I heard it, I was not pleased. All right. Well, anyway, we're back now. Had to turn that crap off straight away. Back into looking at these markets in the pre-open. So we've got dollar index now finding a little bit of strength here as well. Gabe says, really a TPG ad. Absolutely, man. So we've got dollar index coming in a little bit of strength, which usually means a bit of weakness here. I'm still looking mostly at the Nasdaq today. So here, this top left screen, really, if we move over to the singles and we just have a quick look at the Nasdaq, this was the strong pre-market moves. The pre-market got to the 11,200 zone, found resistance, and then came off back down to that. So basically, we had a very, very nice little sell. Why was that? 20 exponential moving average just continues to kind of present. Almost hit it, but really I think the support into the resistance was the key here. Could this be the first day that we actually see a futures pre-market actually be the point where it hits the resistance and we don't have buying in the first hour? The curse of the stream. Are we actually going to reverse everything? We're only 0.34 up now in the market into the pre-market here. That is not much. Yeah, so I'm using TradingView for anyone that's asking out there. Absolutely, TradingView is the one that we're using. They were cool enough to hook me up with actually a premium membership here. I just quickly asked them, if we can have it. So, because we use it quite a lot in the stream. I actually like TradingView for one reason. And the main reason behind it is because you can firstly get any instrument you really want. There's a lot of data feeds and use them. But more, I've used so much trading software over the years that I don't execute through TradingView. Hey, I'm not going to do that. It's not the platform I use, but I like it from a perspective of having the technical analysis on one particular software where you know how it works and you can use it. So it just makes things so much simpler. If you use something like Webull or Robinhood, you're going to have inferior technical analysis software. You might have really, really great price action and market depth and all those types of things, and you can still use that, still do your execution through it. But TradingView is one of the best for technical analysis. That'd be right, Buzz. If they do, that would be awesome. Hey, that'd be very, very cool. So we lost a couple of members there because of that stupid Spotify thing, so I do apologize about that. But, oh well. I didn't even know it could play through halfway through a song. Ad just comes out of nowhere. Sneaky, sneaky. So pre-market here, let's just quickly do the run round of the 50 billion plus kind of crowd. We have here not much on the decline in terms of overall opening down, but things like Snap have come in. Apple's come in a lot here. Now only 0.2% up. Was over 1% pre-market when we started the stream. So 15 minutes out, we're only on a 0.2. Let's Activision, 1%. Overall, mostly of these big ones, kind of just like the 1% now. Not really too many 2+. So that is very interesting. Bottom left-hand side here, gold is bulling up a little bit. Let's just go into the 15 minutes on a few of these charts. So we'll start lining up the 15 minutes here on Nasdaq, and we'll also line up the S&P 500 or the SPX on the 15 minutes. We'll actually use the US 500 here so we can line up the futures. Okay, so I think really our clear level of resistance for the day is going to be around 11,200 on the Nasdaq. It's very, very clear to me. Buying pressure is probably going to come in at around 11,100 if we go down early. So do expect some buying pressure here. Why? Because previous resistances. This is basically a 1, 2, 3 on the smaller time frames. We've got the 1, we've got the 2, and we've got the 3. And then it closed above and moved up. So do expect some buying pressure if the market, if this Nasdaq is coming down to the 11,100 zone. Jody Bree says weak hands. Yeah, I love that. Crypto was cool for one thing. It came up with some amazing things to do with memes and stuff like that. It was really, really cool. I think people are too scared to buy pre-election. The algos are probably holding this up. I think that if everyone is too scared to buy pre-election, then with the discounts that we are getting, and I think they're significant enough discounts considering the earnings. Remember, the earnings beats are wild right now. We have 87% beats. Do never lose sight of that. That means that we should be bullish on the market. Regardless of the economy, regardless of everything else, we should be bullish on the market considering it's actually beating expectations, and that's strong. So if everyone's holding off because of the election, that's another reason why I kind of position a portion in before, a portion in during the election, and a portion in after we see, of course, who plays out. T. Raiden says it's a bit of a mix of indicators. VIX is down, dollar is up, and financial sectors are up. So yeah, it is a little bit of a mixture coming into the morning here. But remember, the first hour, T. Raiden, has obviously always usually been a fake kind of move for us. And then after the first hour, we've usually seen the true market intentions for the day, specifically on Monday. So yeah, right now we've got VIX up, showing that the market should technically be declining. We are seeing some declining action through the markets here. The Nasdaq's still giving us the best technicals of the day. Let's go and bring down a 15-minute Dow as well over here and have a look at that. Just quickly line that one up. So Dow overall, what have we got here? So very, very strong, probably 15-minute buying pressure at this 26, 600 pretty much. Previous resistances all the way across here. I'd be lining that one up as well. So I definitely have lines here for the Dow. Let's have a look at the S&P. This is all 15-minute plays because, of course, we're talking about what will probably happen possibly in the open. So 15-minute, you can see very, very clearly we're just going to be lining this up with the key zone. So, well, it's not as clear, I don't think, on the S&P as it is on these clear round numbers on the Dow and the Nasdaq. But somewhere between this 32.90 and 32.85 for the US 100. Kevon says, Tom, can you speak more about dollar cost averaging? Yeah, absolutely, Kevon. So basically, dollar cost averaging, I think, is one of the best basic techniques in trading and, well, investing, sorry, not trading. So what it is effectively you are buying portions of whatever your poison is. Maybe it's going to be buying S&P 500 or QQQ, like we found out before, a lot of people using QQQ. So you're basically buying an average, you're buying a price. So you might say, okay, I like QQQ at 11,000 the other day, the equivalent of that, obviously. then when you buy it, you buy a portion of maybe the savings that you have at that time. Then you keep saving, you pack away money, and then you buy at specific points. So what I always think of it, and why I want to do this on the channel, is I'm going to take all the revenue we've made from the channel, and I still will do this when I get the buy price I want. And basically, I'm going to put it in the market. I'm going to show you how I dollar cost average, like a general consensus. And then every month after we make whatever revenue, we're going to put it aside. And then when the market pulls back to correct zones, we're just going to whack it back into the market. Or possibly, let's say dollar cost averaging with the idea of using TA, or we're just going to continuously put it in over time at any price and effectively then change our average price on the particular stock or particular index. Ralph says, can you explain the difference between futures and the real market, please? Yeah, so coming into the open, 9 minutes away, by the way. I'm pretty hyped for today's open for sure. 121 is getting tough. That's all right. So yes, can we explain the difference between the futures and the real market? So futures is not very liquid. It's liquid from the perspective as it uses synthetics, and you'll be able to position anything you want into the market. But when you're talking about a fund manager, or you're talking about Wall Street in general, they need the volume liquidity of the day. So they place most of their big trades, obviously, when the real market's open. Therefore, you have real volume, you've got real trades from the big boys, which is the most important thing, and you have the opportunity to actually see how they're positioning in the market. The problem with the futures is they're trading further and further out. So they're trading more and more hours, and they're more open to manipulation. So I don't usually look at the futures too much from my analysis perspective. I look at them more from the tool of being able to invest in them. Try to use real markets whenever possible. It's really about where's Wall Street's volume, and Wall Street's volume is all the way through, obviously, that stuff like the real market. US 10-year Treasury rate is selling off, meaning money, this is from Michael Carney, money is flowing out of equities and into the safety of bonds. So let's have a quick look at the futures market here and have a look at the bonds. So we've got 30-year bonds, 10-year notes. Overall, this will be slightly delayed, but 30-year bonds are up, 5-year note, etc., all slightly up. So if we do see bonds increase, we will be basically having a general rotation. I wouldn't put too much stock in the current movements on bonds. I'd be looking just more at price action on the markets, because there could be a whole bunch of weird rotation from fund managers assessing risk, taking more bonds in, etc., etc. They might just be buying more or selling more. A lot of rebalancing probably ahead of the key event risks that people are seeing this week. Again, just to recap, Netflix coming down pre-market here. It's 480, but it is on a very strong technical buy from around these levels, so it's worthwhile considering and, of course, making your own decisions on that. Recap the VIX, we're talking about 41, close above or wick above 41, should be explosive for volatility and fear. We did a CBOE put-call ratio, was incredibly low on Friday, 1.19, one of the lowest readings we've seen in a while, showing us as a community that we're basically possibly in for further selling today, just because this is a weird number. That's quite low in terms of the amount of puts opened. Depending on the puts open today, we'll have to see. Bitcoin still remaining quite strong, hit that 14K resistance, selling off. Did find some buying pressure around the 13.5, but we still expect a further decline in Bitcoin potentially, regardless of everything else. So now only 6 minutes away from the market open. Let's just quickly check that pre-market on the Webull again. We'll just quickly bring up the pre-market prices. Looks like things are not looking so good coming into the pre-market now from the 50 billion plus. We do not have as much strength overall. We've got a bit of neutral now. Nothing too much to be worried about, but yeah, just a little bit of neutral there overall. Let's have a quick look at Zoom as well, just coming in. Another one of those lessons in a stock that when it becomes really, really popular and everyone goes crazy on it, eventually it has an epic sell-off. And unfortunately, that's underway right now. I think regardless of what the actual market's doing, Zoom should decline and probably come up and touch with the 20 exponential on the weekly at some point relatively soon. So I don't think we're necessarily out of selling on Zoom. This stock is heavily overbought and deserves to come back down. Let's have a look at the reading on the daily here. We're only 5 minutes off the open here, but yeah, this is coming down relatively aggressively right now. So 589 down to a 460. I wouldn't be surprised to see even further selling on this one. And again, look at that weekly 20 on Zoom. Back over to the markets, what are we looking at? So we're still looking at 11,100, kind of an 8 zone here, being previous resistances on the Nasdaq over on the left-hand side, and support, and 11,200 resistance. We'll go over to some questions. What do we got coming through? Stuart says, I love dollar cost averaging. I use 3 portion stacks and buy more as it goes lower and sell when in good profit. Dollar cost averaging is awesome, Stuart, especially on indices. It's great on high quality stocks that you believe in over the term. Never dollar cost, I'll repeat this, never dollar cost average crap stocks. Penny stocks, bad. It's bad. If you have a plan and the plan isn't all in, then it's okay. But people blow their accounts that way. I'm sure someone in the community right now could tell us that. They will say, oh yeah, I kind of kept buying a stock on the way down and lost a whole bunch of money. Unfortunately, it is what happens. Paul says, Tom, do you ever talk 10-2 spreads? I really want to do options, Paul, on the channel. So we'll talk about options in the future, but not this week. Not into the election too much, but spreads are cool. I love spreads. I have a different way of approaching spreads, which I think is always really interesting. I do options different to other people because options are inherently against you. So we're now only 3 minutes away from the market open. Give us your feedback. Up, down for the end of the day. Give it to us. Are we going to be up or down for the end of the day? I'm thinking... I'm not going to tell you my opinion until I've seen yours. But yeah, tell us or tell me whether you think, and the community, whether you think it's going to be an up or down day at the end of the day. Let me know. Stuart says, just index and ETFs for me. Good work, Stuart. Very nice. Hey, Nate. How you going? Good to see you there, Nate. $77. Up. Quite a few down, quite a few up. Bit more down than up. Quite a few people saying up after election. I like that one. Bloodbath. That's good. 2 minutes away from the open, guys. This is going to be exciting. We're going to leave it on this screen to see the open. Then we're going to see all of the sectors start to open as well. Bring up our sector analysis, see which ones are doing the best in the day. Overall, right now, we're seeing mostly US dollar strength. So we're seeing here, fear coming back in. VIX is coming back in. US dollar coming back in. Gold hedging going up. Market going up. Everything's going up. That doesn't usually make sense, eh? Generally, that means, especially if we see the VIX continue to bull move and the market to bull move with it, probably retail trap. Few people saying... It looks like a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be slightly down or down a little bit at the end. Wouldn't be surprised to see up then down from my opinion. So I think up for the first little while. Go back, test the 11.2 possibly on the Nasdaq, and then find some resistance. $77 coming in with US $5 saying keep it up sticker. Thank you very much, Sandollar. Always really, really appreciate your support. All right, 11.29. Oh my goodness, I almost missed it. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's wonderful. It's almost like we're in the pits. So we've opened up. Here we go. Off to the races on the markets across the world. So basically, well, mostly the US, but we are off and running. Basically, strength across all hedging down the bottom here. Remember, down on the bottom here should be, any of these things are going bullish, we should see bearish movement in the top ones. Let's zoom this in on S&P 500. First 15 minutes is going to be what we're looking for here. We want a 15-minute close above or below. A lot of people ask me, what time frame do you go down to? On the charts, I would say 15 minutes. If I'm using VWAP indicator though, I would use a 5-minute chart. Have a quick look at Apple here on the VWAP. Let's just quickly check that out. So here's Apple on the VWAP. We are looking at a, what is this, a 109.39 for Apple. See how that plays out on the VWAP. We'll keep watching that one. So markets, it seems, are pretty much going bullish initially, which is kind of as we expect. So they're holding the points. I wouldn't mind to see the futures come a little bit lower there on the Nasdaq before going bullish, but let's see if it can hold up for the first hour. Siddharth says Neo is down. Let's just quickly load Neo bottom right down here. Have a quick look. So Neo is slightly down, but I still think there could be some more rampant buying here, Siddharth. I think by the end of the day, we hit a peak that then sells off the next couple of days. All right, so selling coming in here. Here we go. Yes. Sorry if you're bullying right now and you don't. But I don't mind it coming down. I have a plan. The plan is really more around, and hey, I bought some today, but I don't mind the idea of getting a 3,000 on the S&P. That would be sweet. I think that's cool. Even a 3,200 touch again on the S&P is not bad. So we'll have to see whether it does happen into the US election. But the first hour is always very, very tricky. So Neo down the bottom here, I think it's holding this level. I wouldn't be surprised to see a new high now, Siddharth, and further bullish pressure. I think it'll trade very similar to all other announcements. If we had time, we'd go through Tesla, we'd go through what happened on Nikola, we'd go through Hertz, we'd go through all of those days where people were just trying to make money and see whether the first couple of hours held up. So we'll load that back up with the VIX now. Thank you very much for everyone that's coming out. We hit an all-time record on the stream tonight. Got well over 800 before I had to go and get some water. And I really do appreciate that. I think we're at 890 or something like that. That's awesome. Paul says market open in the US. It certainly is. So a bit of a mixed kind of bag here in the first 3 minutes. A little bit of selling pressure, a little bit of buying. Still really not the time frame that we want to be looking at so far. Let's have a look at sector performance. I'll bring that up right now and bring it on the screen. 1 second. Okay. All right, so we're drawing up our charts right now from sector performance. Let's just bring that in. So we've got here, it looks like the sector of the day so far has been healthcare. Which is probably a bit of a move into rotation there so far, 1.39% up. Technology, actually the weakest sector, up 0.49. Energy starting to come up 0.73, and XLP surprisingly doing all right. Consumer staples. XLB is what's that one again? Not utilities. Utilities XLU. Material. I think it's materials. So overall, mostly just the same story as usual. Energy being crap, technology being crap at the moment. We'll come back to that very, very soon. All right, we'll go back over to the chat. Ask me a few questions if you want to while we wait for this first 15 minutes to come through and play out. Always interesting to see. Neo dropping like crazy. All right, we have to put Neo back on. That's not dropping like crazy. Come on, guys. That's not crazy. 9.4%. I guess it went down a little bit more. Went to 33, hey? Well, you can also look at how it held its hype last time. So, I mean, it traditionally held it over here, didn't it? Traditionally held it last time over here as well. But yeah, wow. I mean, it's an elevated stock. Maybe it just goes with market sentiment overall. So we got the Nasdaq actually holding up a little bit. S&P, Dow being the weakest here. So one of the Dow companies is not doing so well. We'll go back over to the chat though and we'll answer some questions here. US 500 is just here in the middle. Are you having a live stream on the election? Absolutely. So we'll be covering the back end of the election closer to when we should be able to see some form of result. And we'll be doing a multi-hour live stream looking at all things in the futures. Yes, Kevin. You never stop buying, Kevin. So Tom says, Tom, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, with dollar cost averaging, do I continue to buy if my first position is going against me? Yeah, you would be. You just basically keep going. And it's a good thing if you're trying to save. So basically when people just like averaging in, I like to go dollar cost averaging with a bit of nuance to it. So maybe I might save and hold back money and then buy specifically like 38.2 or 23.6 fib pullbacks, kind of things that make some sense to me. But yeah, you can also do other things like that. Gabe says, Neo is dropping like crazy and I have a 1 second chart on. Yeah, we all start there, Gabe. We all start there. I've told the community before, I started on a tick chart. No, I put moving averages on the tick chart. Now, if you get to that level, you know that's bad. Moving averages on the tick chart and using a 1 minute chart to trap news with a straddle. Even worse. I'm selling covered calls out of the money, says Zaki. Yeah, look, covereds are pretty good. You get great. What's the? There's a lot of money on right now in terms of covered calls. You're getting, I think, in the Australian banks at the money, you're getting about 2.5–3% or something for a half week, which is not bad. So first hour seems to be playing out usual way. Interesting to see though, technology's got the buy in it and S&P 500's kind of struggling here. Dow also not doing so well, so it just shows that specifically this sector's doing better. Around the world, looks like Aussie futures trading slightly higher, 59.69, so that's pretty strong. We put a fib extension on Neo. I think we should. I think we should do that right now, actually. So we'll skip off this and we'll come back at 15 minutes, so that's about 7 minutes away now. And we'll check that out. Let's have a quick look at Apple, just doing its little thing. And we will load up now Neo, because everyone's talking about it today. And we will put a fib on, I guess, what you would call the last run. So you'll take it from the bottom here. I think that's the only one you can draw. I mean, you could draw from here as well, but we'll go the whole move because it's just been so insanely fast for this particular stock. So if we're talking about a pullback, let's say on this, even if you drew this one or the one down all the way from the low here, they're going to be pretty even. A 38.2 fib, remember, is giving a 22 reading on Neo. We're currently trading a 33.61. So we're trading a lot higher. A lot higher. If anyone can give me a stock that's gone super ballistic recently and then pulled back, well, I think a good one would be DraftKings, which does have a business, there's no doubt, but it's pulled back very, very hard. So right now we'd be looking at a 38.2 back to the $22 basically, and that's probably where it would hit this 20 moving average. Remember, weekly is a good mean reversion for stocks that have gone vertical. If you're ever concerned and you think, oh, I've missed the boat and it looks like this, don't worry, it'll come back. Very, very rarely do they go like this, and they go off the screen. Nothing goes to the moon forever. If you want repeats, Bitcoin, 20K. We all know what happened. No worries, Mark. Thank you very much for the support. I appreciate that. He says, thanks for your analysis again, Tom. Good night. No worries. Leo, yes, we did see. Leo says head and shoulders on Microsoft and Amazon, Tom, in the daily. Yeah, so we had a look at that before, Leo. We definitely checked out the key support lines on both. We talked about also that if we don't see stimulus, it is going to affect Amazon's share price. So if we have a quick look at Amazon, which I think is probably the more interesting one, Amazon here, we've got this 29, kind of 27. The head and shoulders that you're talking about is this is the left, here's the head, and here's the right. The only thing I don't like about that is the right shoulder should never be higher than the left shoulder. Never. You never want that. It doesn't show momentum in the bearish direction. So the way I would look at it is we're going to probably see buying support, as we said, around 3,000. There's a few reasons why we talked about before. And if it continues to sell off, gets underneath this zone, back down to 2,600 would make a lot of sense. And you can bet there will be stimulus. So if it did come down to this zone, of course, it would be a pretty nice little area, wouldn't it? VIX continues to kind of be, all over the place. Let's have a look at the general futures here. Let's go to crypto market just quickly. Take a look at that before we get back on a chart. Sea of red today. Not really super extreme for crypto, but it is all down. Had a very nice last week. Did the crypto markets. Again, if we're looking at pairs overall, a few of the hedge pairs, so US dollar strength across the board right now. Seeing that a little bit here. If we put on a daily on the US dollar, we'll see it had a very nice pickup above that 93.85. Talked about a lot in our videos. So gold also now benefiting, even though the US dollar has been relatively strong, gold now starting to see a bit more bullish intentions. So the move here seems to be technology for the day and S&P and Dow actually declining. We'll go back over to our sector analysis. So there's been a bit of a switch here in technology. It was down, it was the crappiest sector with energy before. Now we're seeing energy down 0.28 and actually XLK up 0.7. So XLK has moved up quite a lot here from before. Almost now the best performer. There's been just switches. Nothing to really gain from this data so far, other than energy just keeps copying it. Imagine being Kyle Arkan right now. He took all his Apple shares, all his Netflix shares, and he bought some serious bad companies. Snook Aru says, Tom, new sub here. Found you about 4 days ago. Thank you. Yeah, quite a few people did, Snook, and I really do appreciate it. So, I mean, look at this. We have had record numbers today. We've got 10,537 from what I'm looking at here, view count for this live stream that we've been doing. So that's just amazing. Thank you very much to everybody out there. Tesla going up, says Valdo, sorry. So now we're seeing that buying pressure come back into NEO. Again, do not be surprised to see further buying pressure for a little while on this one, maybe a couple hours. But I think considering how far away it is, even with good news, there will be some selling pressure off this stock after it has its little run. So we almost hit the 11.2 that we had critically resistanced by, we got what, 1198.7 it looks like here on the Nasdaq, and then sold off a little bit, some selling pressure coming into that. We're now seeing selling pressure on the S&P and Dow, which is getting significant. This is, remember, 15 minutes, so it looks more crazy than it really is. Coming down now to our little miniature buy zones on the smaller time frames. Come on, NEO, do its little thing. Pretty big switches here on NEO, about 4% since open. That's only 15 minutes now. 876 Pip says, hey Tom, I'm kind of new here. Am I wrong for going deep, he says, in BTC in September? I try to keep over 80% in BTC. Well, I think you did pretty well in September. I guess you were buying around that 10K. I mean, 10K was the coolest, one of the coolest technicals I've seen in a while. Beautiful daily wick rejections. Go check that out. Always solid. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, really. You could be trading like a lean hog or something, and that would still be good price action. So, but yeah, look, you're not wrong, but you're not diversified, are you? So, I mean, from my perspective, I don't like it. But if you believe in it, then you believe in it. As long as you buy the right levels and you're not blind to crazy hype and crazy trains. But if you don't want to hold pure, like I guess you would call it fiat, then that's fair enough. Bitcoin inherently does have a value because everyone knows about it. I don't like other crypto coins as much though, because they just don't have that kind of brand synergy. NEO continuing to move up here, 13%. Would not be surprised for it to continue to bull move, even though the market's going down. It doesn't care about the market today, guys. NEO does its thing. All right. One last try. Check RTX Raytheon 1 hour chart with BB MACD. Kes Costas. I'll have a quick look at RTX Raytheon, mate. So I'll just quickly bring that up. Won't bring everything into it, but we're definitely not going to be checking it on a 5-minute chart, are we? I'll just have a quick look at it from a price action perspective. So here's a daily. Realistically, it's sold off, obviously. It's gone down below. This is a sick level for shorters. Why is that? Previous supports, 56.73. I won't chuck all your indicators on here right now, man, but that definitely is a sick level on that level or zone. We're looking at a 1 hour, similar kind of thing. I'd just be looking at it coming back to around this 56. Finding selling pressure. It's interesting that it kind of like gapped up and then found selling pressure straight away. I'm not sure what this is and how you trade it, but yeah, one to learn. A few people ask me whether you trade like tons of instruments. You can if you get really good at it, but actually you're better off. You'll notice a lot of day traders, they'll actually trade about 5 stocks. So things like Apple, it's a great stock for trading. In Australia, a lot of people trade FMG. So usually you find a few stocks, learn how they are. Maybe Tesla is your pick. A few people coming in talking about Tesla. So if Tesla's your day, I think Tesla's a pretty cool trade. There's definitely some technicals in it now. So it's 400 again, 402. Pretty strong day for Tesla so far. This is possibly a I mean, I wonder if this is a rotation. Is there news on Tesla that I don't know about right now? Can someone tell me in the room? I'd be interested to know whether this is a random Biden style trade right now. People hyping into potentially a Biden win. Because Tesla is meant to be one of those ones that's pegged for a win off an event like that. Or whether it's just strong because of NEO's result. Probably that reason, I think. So 400 should act as some form of resistance. I know it's through it right now, but there's a 50 exponential here. And do remember, 50 exponential support, 50 exponential support, 50 exponential dynamic resistance potentially now. We did close underneath it. Roman says, NEO extremely overbought in every time frame. NEO on a rocket ship. So, yeah, I don't like that kind of thing. I think it's way too crazy. So we've got a 148 now. So we've seen our 15-minute closes. Let's just quickly go back over to those. So 15-minute closes were negligible to say the least. I'd still probably keep these levels up. Remember, from 11.2 on the Nasdaq and 11.1. Very clear numbers here. Well, this is 11.1, slightly higher. So 11.109. Very, very clear. Overall, that's pretty much what I'm looking at. I still expect further NEO kind of pump pressure here for the first hour. Remember, first hour is the trap. Let's see what happens after the first hour. Yeah, Roman's correct. Tesla sympathy rally due to NEO. Makes the most sense. Blue Jean 725 says, your voice is getting croaky, Tom. It needs a rest. Friendly advice. I will probably call it here, guys. I've been going for about 2 and a bit hours, 3 hours. I don't even know. A while now, hey, because of this this US time split. But we do need to prepare for a massive election day special. So I'll be doing as long as possible for a stream on the election day, talking about all things finance. I think it's going to be a great day of finance discussion anyway. And we'll be following everything. I'll probably select kind of like cool screener, set it all up. It'll be interesting. Just kind of leave you with some ideas here. So just a few things we talked about at the start of the stream. Growth of dollars invested over different administrations generally has been actually okay under Democrats, even though a lot of people would believe it's not. We can see here the way the market traded over that time. If we're talking about a Biden victory, which pollsters would have us believe is true, and we don't know whether it is or not because pollsters have been wrong like every single time. renewables, all of this new renewable stuff is mostly the picks. Tesla, all of those kind of things. Workhorse, another one that seems to be in there. We did talk about how Workhorse was back on support and around that area. If you're talking about other things that I think are big, I think the big kind of large cap companies are going to be very, very safe kind of moves regardless of who wins. So things like Apple, things like just generally anything big is going to be okay. A lot of people think the technology sector in general is going to do very, very well under a Biden administration, supposedly. And healthcare sector, I think, is a massive mixed bag. I would be very careful in that sector. I know it's being picked, but I'd be really, really careful. I'm personally thinking also ethical investments. So things like funds that trade in ethical, so-called ethical funds or that type of thing could be a strong pick as well. It's been actually a very good pick in a lot of people's portfolios over a little while. So they're worthwhile considering. All of these type of things. Obviously, this one we do like on this stream. We're a bit of a fan of that, and we're a bit of a fan of this one as well. Berkshire Hathaway around $200 it was, so that's right on that kind of buy zone as well. Consider all of these things. Make a plan around the US election, however you want to invest in it. That's really all I can tell you. And have a plan for both scenarios. Never go in just thinking that because you think everyone's going to win or somebody's going to win that they are. Expect the unexpected, just like Trump Day. As soon as Trump got in, I remember I just thought rate cut. I just thought instantly tax cuts. Technically, it's going to be a benefit. So the market tanked, but everyone got on board on that very, very quickly. $77 coming in with US $4. As always, really appreciate your support, Sandola, and everyone in the trading community, to all the subs, to all of the members, to all the people that liked the stream today. Thank you very much. I'll leave you with basically that, I think, and I'll see you all tomorrow with another daily video, and obviously coming at you with US election stuff. Look at this, Amazon actually finding still relative weakness. Have a quick look around the market. So S&P 500's bounced, and right now we are at 11,200. Don't get too hyped though, because while it's all here, we're still only in the first half an hour of trade. Let's see what happens after that first hour, hey? Or when I close the stream, because it always goes down after that. Good luck, everyone. Stay safe. See you in the next stream. Bye for now.